I'd like to welcome everybody to the February 10th workshop meeting of Marlborough Township Board of Education. Cindy, would you please call the roll?
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Are we on?
On.
Perfect, thank you. Mrs. Dean?
Here.
Mr. Dwyer?
Here.
Mrs. Ennie?
Here.
Mrs. Cow's not here. Mrs. Lou Riddell?
Here.
Mr. Marshall?
Here.
Mrs. Matos?
Here.
Mrs. Rosenwald's not here. And Mr. Lalanski?
Here. Please be advised this meeting is being held in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975, the Sunshine Law. Adequate notice of the date, time, and agenda has been sent to the Asbury Park Press and news transcript. Also been posted and filed with the Marlborough Township Clerk. Copies have also been sent to each district school and other area newspapers in accordance with the law. I'm going to draw your attention to, but I'm not going to read in its entirety, the statement and videotaping of public portion of Board of Education meetings, public session statement, as well as no smoking on school grounds. Everybody please rise and join me for the pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to announce that Tara Gostovich, DMD, is the district's Emerald Level sponsor for the 2014-2015 school year, and we thank her for her support. A quick review of the agenda shows we're having a public session open to any item, followed by a presentation of the State of Special Services, followed by the presentation of the 2015-2016 school budget, centering tonight on curriculum and instruction and special services, followed by a second public session open to any item as well, and we will be having an executive session tonight. So with that, I'll open the public session, open to any item. You can do it after, Amy. Just read the first, whoever did.
First name, Bonnie Gavison.
Thank you.
Hello, Dr. Hibbs, members of the board.
Hi.
Bonnie Gabazon, 2 Harvest Court.
Thank you.
I'm here to speak about park.
Can you either,
Pull
yeah,
it?
just pull that out, it's easier.
Okay. I was going to speak about my objections to the park, why I object to the park. I'm going to skip over that because I think everybody here is part of the dialogue. So I'm going to speak about refusal and the district's policy on refusal. As it stands now, it's evolved over the last few months. Initially being told there's no opt-out, but then people learn that they can refuse. Then we were told that the only way to refuse the test is for our students to be absent. And then that was proven that they do not have to stay home for the test. They can go for the be in school for the test. Then it was that they would be in the room for the test to refuse. That's changed. And as it stands, as of the last meeting, students whose parents refuse in advance will be removed from the room and taken to the library to read, which is a good step. A few things came up, though, about what that actually is going to look like. And Dr. Hibbs, I believe you said that they will initially have to sit for the test, and the child themselves will have to either verbally or non-verbally refuse the test, and then they will be respectfully removed from the classroom. I would like to know, because all of these other things have changed, I would like to know if that is mandated to you by the state in any way, that a child has to themselves, a minor child has to refuse for themselves if their parents have already sent in written refusals. And we also talked about how those refusals would be coded, and you indicated that it would be marked as a student misconduct, and made it sound like it was, very just a formality and non-issue. But we've learned that the way in which districts have the discretion on how they're going to handle refusals, and is there a mandate that says it has to be coded as misconduct? Like, where is that coming from? Is that your decision, or is that something that's coming from the state? I know of other districts that are not doing that. In fact, I haven't heard that scenario in many of the district's policies, which at the last meeting I said there were 75 other districts that had written policies as to what their refusal would be. That number is now up to 90. You indicated last time that you just didn't think they were doing it the right way, but I think they are doing it the right way. They're eliminating confusion. They're putting their policy, whatever it may be, in writing so that parents understand, and it's not a series of emails and phone calls and miscommunications and confusion. If it's a district policy in writing, whatever that may be, put it in writing. I don't understand why the board can't propose that. I've seen proposals come up about multicultural days and voting on Chinese New Year, so why couldn't you come up with a proposal to put it in writing? And as far as the coding, as to how it's going to be coded as a refusal, I've seen a form that teachers can fill out after, a park form indicating what the irregularity was, and it allows for a narrative form of what that irregularity is. So I would like mine to be parental refusal. I don't think it should be put on the child to refuse on the spot if the principal, teacher, and superintendent and everyone knows the parents are refusing. To put that on children as young as 8, some may be okay with it. That I think it's intimidating and I think it's unnecessary. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. That was the only name on the sheet?
That was the only name.
Okay, anyone else in the public?
Sure. Maybe first one.
7 Jefferson Road. I don't want to sound redundant. Bonnie basically brought up the same issues that I brought up. However, Mr. Hibbs, you did show me the last time from the park manual as to what you were using to call these children, to use the code, misconduct. And I looked it up, and I do see what you're saying. However, I think it's a play on words. I believe that this is also in the park manual, and this is what other districts are using. It is the irregularity form. Kids that do refuse to take the test, the teacher is filling out this form. It doesn't go in as misconduct. There's no disciplinary action taken. The park has more leeway in terms of how children are coded. So I do know with the NJ Ask that there was a code, a V2, and that was misconduct and refusals and et cetera. But the park is more narrative in nature, and it allows the teachers to indicate that the child did refuse to take the test, not to write that it is a misconduct. So I just wanted to be clear about that. And they can also write that it's a parental request. So I see no reason for this to be coded as misconduct, and I'd like to hear any reason as to why we're opting to do things that other districts are not doing. I don't think it should be a misconduct. I don't think there should be any disciplinary action taken. These children are not doing this. Their parents are refusing for them because we strongly believe against it. Again, in regard to the written policy, not to be redundant, but there are 90 districts, including Princeton, who have a written policy in writing. I think that it protects the parents and the children to have it written down. I think at this point we should be supported, and we should just have our rights, and we're not asking for much. We just want the policy to be put in writing. Not a big deal. I do have 70 with me here that I can submit if you want to cut and paste from there. And then in regard to refusing the test for where the parent has already refused for the child, again, I don't see any policy anywhere. I've gone through the park manual, Pearson, I've called, I've asked around, I've asked attorneys, just to find out if it is a policy, because I can't imagine another reason that you would ask an 8, a 9, or a 10-year-old to also have to refuse prior to the test, to sit at the desk that they're going to administer the test, and actually have to say to their teacher that they're refusing. I think it's harder for the younger children. I also think it's harder for children who have special needs. It's tough for them. And I also think that these kids look up to their teachers. And I don't think that they want to look at their teachers and say that they want to do something against what their teachers are saying. This is about the parents. The 9-year-old has not decided for herself or himself that they do not want to take this test. They're not sitting in a room like they did in the NJ Ask and act out in misconduct and then have to be coded as misconduct. This is very different. So you have a list of how many parents are refusing for their children. I'm sure you're keeping one. As of the meeting last week, the 3rd, I believe you had said that we were up to about 22 refusals at that point. I know that there are much more now. If you can share that number with us. I also think it's easy to just have everybody, the principal of the school, the teachers, have a list of all the children that are not taking the exam. They know which kids will be escorted to the library. Everybody has their names, very clear, very easy. A written policy, very easy. Have the kids' names whose parents have refused, also easy. Put something in writing. It's not going to encourage more people to refuse. It's just going to make it clearer for us. It's going to make us feel more secure. And basically, that was it. I know that you can't take the Common Core away and you can't take the park away. And I'm not going to go into an entire speech about all these district assessments. We've been asking since October to please do something about them, how excessive they are, the stress and the pressure that the children are under. You can make a decision. That is a district decision. Just like the kids refusing, that is your decision to make. Putting a policy in writing, again, that is your decision. In regard to these tests, however, we've been complaining since October. And now you see from October until now, my son's grades have gone down 5, 10 points. The common assessments are excessive. We're more than anybody else. We just do the math. It's hard. These kids are very stressed out. My own child doesn't get very stressed out, so I haven't really seen it that much. He does have anxiety of doing more work. He does get very upset when he gets bad grades. But I don't know if you know for real what's going on in school, and I don't want to say what school, what child, but there is one child, and this child is a very good student. He is an A student. He is a clutch sports player. He does not crack under pressure. And just as an example, he is fine the entire day in school, up until it comes to a point where he has to take a common assessment. The kid has a panic attack, is removed from school, and goes home. To me, that is a very clear picture of what is happening, because I know what's happening. This hit home for me because it is a good family friend of mine. So I know you said you were going to do something about the anxiety. You were going to work on it. I think the thing you can do is really look at the tests, look at the number of them, do something about it. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the public wish to address the board? Sure.
Hi, Jennifer Wexler, 46 Damascus Drive. Around 6.
Excuse me,
Sure.
take that out. It's easier to hear you. Thank you.
I might start singing. About 6 o'clock, I sent an email just so that you would have a copy of what I was going to say. But basically, it boils down to this. At the first meeting that I came to in December, even though I've expressed some dissatisfaction with the use of common assessments, it's also been confusing, just as a parent, to see just how much they're impacting the kids' grades mathematically. And this is probably worse for the kids in the higher grades. So I did a little bit of digging, and I actually sent all of you the links to the websites that I looked at to try to find some clarification on a district policy regarding the weight of common assessments, the weights of test quizzes, etc. Because quite frankly, I have no idea how my daughter's grades are really constructed. And again, as the kids get older, I'm sure it gets a little bit more complicated. So if it's possible that you could, by any chance, just respond to the email with the link that says, common assessments are worth 10%, tests are worth this %. That would be so helpful, not only for me, but I think for a lot of parents who keep seeing the drop, the increase, the decrease with the common assessments. I would also like to say that Dugan's having a talent show, And at this time, I don't think that my older daughter is even going to be able to participate because the kids in her group have so much work to do. Tests, upcoming tests, there's a 5-paragraph essay that's due for the 3rd grader, and we have no time. We have no time, and these are children. And I know everything can't be fun and games, but the Dugan Talent Show is a really big deal to these kids. And I just think it's sad that it looks like, you know, my older daughter's group is going to have to be pulled because we just cannot make the time between quiz tomorrow, the 5-paragraph essay due next week, the persuasive essay that they are working on this week, the Matter project. I can't even keep track of it. I need a planner to organize her planner. And I appreciate, you know, the academic rigor, but the excessive testing is confusing and it's stressful. And to date, I still have no idea how much anything counts for. So, like I said, I sent the email. I showed you where I looked. It could be wrong, and it could be right in front of my face, and I'm just not seeing it. I just have no idea what counts for what. And so with her grades, it's, you know, I keep telling her, don't worry about it. It's all your effort. It's all that matters. But she sees numbers. You know, and eventually when she gets older and those numbers appear on the report card, you know, I don't know how to explain this to her. So, again, I emailed it to make it easier. You can see what I'm looking at. Maybe I'm misreading it. And by all means, if you could correct and clarify, I would really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the public wish to address the board on any item? Sure.
Hi, good evening, board. I'm Karen Lenner, 9 Clymer Court. Everybody is talking about park, and I certainly have some concern with that. But my main concern is the over-testing here in this district. I have a freshman in high school. My main concern is with my 4th grader. He cries and stresses to go to school, and it's all over the CA test. It's month after month after month. I can't even get him to go on the bus a lot of days. This has just happened over the past year and a half or so. I've seen such a change in him. He scores well on the regular weekly tests. Just an example, he has a score of 94 in most of his classes. Then he takes these CAs, his score drops to a 96, 97. He also sees these numbers. He's in 4th grade. I will never let him look at the portal. Every time he sees these tests on these CAs, he doesn't understand why he's not doing well. I tell him not to worry about it, to do his best. We will not study for these CAs. It's so much pressure and stress on him. This change I've seen in him over the past year and a half, and my friends are so tired of hearing about it because I don't even know what to do with him. And it's all the over-testing. The weekly tests, I understand, we all took them. But to take these CAs over and over again every couple weeks, it seems like he's taking them, is just so much pressure on him. And I understand that we can't get rid of the Common Core, we can't get rid of the park, but I feel like the amount of testing and the type of testing that we do in the district can be changed. And it's the one thing that we can do and change for these kids at this time, and I think that we need to make that happen.
Thank you. I just need your name and address on the clipboard, ma'am, if you don't mind, please.
Sorry.
Thank you. Anyone else in the public wish to address the board on any item? Seeing none, sir, you want to respond to what you can?
Yeah. Okay. Bonnie. So your question is, why are we progressing the way that we are, with you write a letter and then I'm still going to make a child sit in front of a computer and then refuse. And to address, I'm not sure where else it came from, but when I said other districts were not doing it the right way, what my reference there is, on October 30th, the commissioner has to be sent home a letter, and in there he was very clear. He sets the educational program. That program includes state testing. All kids must sit for state testing. There is no opt-out. So when I contacted every parent that was on the list, and to answer Mrs. Tolan's question, the number is 24, up from 22. When I call every parent, I let in with the same thing. And I let in with you, which is I fully respect you as a mom or as a dad, whatever decision you want to do. But when you actually drill down into the procedures, there is nothing that says that because you write a letter that a son or daughter does not take a test. What the procedures clearly state are there is no opt-out, and in order for there to be a refusal, they have to refuse. So a refusal is not you saying, Johnny's not taking the test. It's just a very nice opt-out. It's you saying, I'm exercising my right to say I don't want John or Sally to take the test, which I fully respect. I really do. But in order for me to do what I need to do as a superintendent, just like you need to do as a mom or as a dad, there's only one clear path. They have to refuse. And that's just what has to happen. And Amy, I gave you the manual, which shows that when, in order to be removed from testing, I think I even gave you my own papers. That's what has to happen. It's right in the back of the park manual. As far as coding goes, we will code it the way that it's supposed to be coded. That's Mr. Ballone's department. He will make sure that, that any child that needs to be voided or coded in any way, shape, or form, that will 100% be coded the right way. I don't know where before I caught mention of punitive. I think I actually conveyed quite the opposite, that I would never be punitive, to any child. I fully respect you as a mom and your role as what you need to do. But unfortunately, as a superintendent, I have to have a rule. And when I said that they're not doing it the right way, I believe at districts that are just simply putting a letter out saying, if you write a letter, I won't put the child in front of a computer. I don't think that's the right way. And I'm not saying that, your feelings. Yeah. I'm not just talking to you here. What I'm saying is that I was addressing, when I said that other districts aren't doing it the right way, it's very clear. The memo is very clear. All kids must sit. The park manual is very clear. In order to be dismissed from the test, you have to refuse. Refusal is not a mom or dad, unfortunately, writing a letter saying, I don't want my son or daughter to take the test. A refusal is, I'm not taking the test or not taking the test. And as far as where it'll go next, that's where we're going to be. It really is. And we're pretty consistent across the region with Freehold and Howell and the regional. So that was that. As far as putting things in writing, I think I've been, any parent that has issued or fostered any communication at all to any principal gets directed directly to me. I make the immediate phone call as soon as it comes in. And 23 of those 24 conversations, I think, have been very productive, nice conversations. The other one was not so much, but nothing that I could contain. Will principals have the names? Right now, I have a Google spreadsheet. On that spreadsheet are different tabs. Every principal has the name of every child that I get, and then I actually make contact because I wanted to have the contact with parents. And I then call the principal immediately, and their name gets, if they were on there, it gets turned to blue, and then I tell them that I had conversations with a parent and how it went. Michael, can you talk just really quick about the weights of the common assessments? Is that something you can do?
Sure. Common assessments are weighted differently. For the most part, they count as tests. If you're unclear, Mrs. Wexler, on the percentages of a test weight in a grade bucket, reaching out to the teacher, that would be a very easy conversation with the teacher. Even an email, they can send you what the weightings are, because they do vary depending on your grade level. So if it's a common assessment, it counts as a test. A common performance task in math is a quiz. Okay, so whatever your test bucket is, let's say for argument's sake your test bucket is 50% in the grade book, and that common assessment, provided that it's not a common performance task, it would go into that test bucket along with all of the other tests that the teacher has made. So within that 50% grade bucket, that would be a portion of their teachers have that link on their internal site, but I don't see why we can't publicize that for the public. But I know teachers At the beginning of the year, they typically either put it on their website or they send home a document, but we'd be happy to do that. Sure, you're welcome.
Make sure that happens. Absolutely. You what?
The paperwork is given at back to school night.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
And it's on their teacher.
typically done like that.
We'd be happy to put it on the same page with curriculum, though. That would make it easier. It's an easy thing to do. Sir?
So I just want to, Dr. Hibbs, make it clear, because I think I want to make sure I understood, because I want to be clear for the moms too. So a child that just sits down in front of the computer and just sits and says nothing is also a refusal?
Yes.
By not doing anything?
Yes.
Doesn't have to come out and say, I refuse? So just sit there and just...
Yeah.
Because I'm worried about the little 8-year-old that forgets that their mother or father told them, I sent a letter in
Sure.
to refuse this, and remember, Sally, you can't take the test, and then they go in there and they, like she said, respect the teachers, and they
Sure.
take the little test, and the parents are going to be like, I told you.
I absolutely understand. And in every conversation with every parent, I broach that topic because I understand that when a child gets in front of a teacher that they really have a relationship with, it might be very hard to do that. And the way I lead is that I fully respect the decision a parent has to make, and I do fully respect that. And I need parents to understand that I have a set of parameters that I have to work under as well. And there's really, when I really take it apart, there's no other way for it to be. And there's other questions that come up. What happens to the child that in the moment never wrote any form of a correspondence and doesn't take the assessment in that moment? We'll have a plan for that. That will be the child obviously is refusing, so we'll have to deal with that in the moment. There'll be an immediate phone call made to mom or dad just to make sure that this is exactly what they want to happen and apprise them of the situation. So, what I can't say is, I can't say that I'm going to take a letter and I'm going to not put a child in the testing environment, because I just fundamentally don't believe that is the correct thing to do. I fully understand and respect everyone's opinion. I don't believe it's the correct course of action as we are given by the state. I just don't. Now, if I have a clear communication from that parent, they have been communicated with back, and then they will not have to sit for any other assessment aside from the first one, because at that point I will have a clear line of they wrote it, the child refused it, and then I won't put the child through that again.
So they only have to refuse once?
That's it, one time, and then they'll be out. Absolutely. If they want to come back.
Because they can't take, once they refuse, they can't take a makeup, they can't do anything, so that's why it only takes once?
I think they could, a parent theoretically could.
Well, I know they could take the makeup,
Yeah.
but I thought you had said earlier that if they didn't come to the first day when the test was given, and then
Yeah.
they were there on the makeup day, they were going to have to take the test.
Well, at the end
That's
of
what I'm saying, do they have to
They will not, no.
Okay.
I am going to treat it where if we have the refusal and the child refuses, that it's refused. I'm not going to continue to put the child back in. Now, if I don't have a letter from a parent, that's a different story, because then I don't have any clear indication of what the parent may or may not want to do.
And I'm going to hope, I have faith in our teachers that they're going to pretty much know ahead of time which ones are not.
Oh no,
So
the
they're going to be
process is
sensitive. I would think they would
yeah,
come over, and
I'm
if
not-
Johnny starts to.
Yeah, I don't think that
Depends on-
the internal policy needs to go out here, but I will have a plan for
Okay.
all these contingencies,
I trust
100%.
you. Okay.
I have a question about the coding for the misconduct.
Mhm.
How is that seen in our district at that point? And what is the code per se?
I don't have the codes in front of me. I just simply said they'd be coded appropriately, but there are no ramifications that I'm aware of for any type of a code at all.
Do those codes end up anywhere electronically, Genesis, so forth?
They get uploaded through NJ Smart, I'm going to guess. But they would, it's no different than it's ever been for NJ Ask. So as far as I know, there are no ramifications going forward. So let's say, for instance, the student either refused NJ Ask last year or they had mono and were out for 2 months. The state just didn't take the test, and they don't have a number.
Dr. Evans, you're saying that I just want to understand, it has to be labeled misconduct?
Well,
Or is that,
when you
I know you do in
no,
the state, or
what-
can you label it?
What I said was,
Exactly what it
as
was?
far as misconduct goes, when you drill down into the park manual,
Okay.
in order to be dismissed from testing, which means you are taken out of the room, it defines what those things are in parentheses in the end of the park manual under New Jersey specific.
Okay.
One of the things to be to the misconduct, and I don't like that word. I think it's an ugly word, but that is defined by the refusal to take the test.
Okay.
So if that happens, we will code it appropriately, and Mr. Ballone will be there to ensure that actually absolutely occurs.
Thank you.
In the NJ Smart, when it gets uploaded, are there, I don't know much about NJ Smart, are there specific codes that go up? Is there a way that you can add something?
No.
No, it just shoots.
It's a full file.
The data collection. Yep. Yeah.
Unfortunately, editorialized.
There's no other.
I mean, all I can say is they'll be coded appropriately. Well, just like we've always done for NJ Ask, and then HESPA, and then GEPA, and then all the way back, we will code it appropriately according to what we need to do as a district. And I will ensure that Michael does that, and I won't need to because he's a very competent individual.
Sorry, I forgot to
Okay.
That's basically the form that's in the park manual that gets to be filled out, and that's what gets sent to Pearson. So when a child takes the park test, those scores get sent to Pearson. However, for a child that is not being tested, they have to submit something for that child. That is a form that should be submitted. There should be no misconduct labeled. It can just say the parent refused for the child to take the test, and that's the form that everybody's using.
Okay.
That's how it's being submitted.
And what I said was, it will be coded appropriately. In order to be removed from the room, it's technically under the word misconduct, which is what I said.
Okay, sir. To speak to the testing again, I know John spoke to it last week. Again, Dr. Hibbs has assured all the board members that he's constantly looking at the level of testing.
Absolutely.
The level of
The averages.
averages and what counts for how much. And he's going to report back to the board by the end of the year, I know that. And
We'll
if any-
have a revision to the testing at the end of this year, absolutely. And then I'll also have for you in the near future the next wave of common assessments. They were coming in. They came in higher than the last wave. So, kids are not, I think sometimes it's perceived as, or it's being explained that every child fails these assessments. It's just simply not true. It did. It did a lot better. A lot better.
Okay, wait.
You had mentioned that you were going to have guidance address.
Yep.
Can you tell us?
Sure.
'Cause
Yep, absolutely. Got it.
how you did that?
Michael?
Mrs. Dean, you're referring to test anxiety and,
Yes.
and how students are feeling
is our
overall?
guidance- How are
Absolutely.
we addressing that with our kids?
So Mrs. Tardio is the supervisor of guidance, technically under Mr. Klein, but she works with them closely. And what she has done is she's devised common lessons for her counselors to go into classrooms, which they normally do anyway, but they have devised lessons across the district that are common, so we know that we're hitting on specific items of need. In addition to that, she has devised a survey, a student survey, and that survey involves test anxiety, overall feeling. She also ties in HIB in terms of bullying. Do you feel safe in school? And those lessons are taking place during this month. So they started in the month of February, and they'll continue on throughout all of the schools. Once we get all of that data back, we'll take a look at it. We'll look at test anxiety, among other things, including HIB, overall feeling, overall safety in the schools, and we will then address those issues that surface. So that's exactly what we said we would do, and she has now implemented that.
Okay.
So they're going into the
Absolutely.
rooms,
Counselors-
addressing the children.
Yes,
Before the
counselors.
test, after the test,
Counselors typically, they push into classrooms periodically throughout the year. At the middle school level, they do it through peer-to-peer, so the students go in. The elementary level, they go in just similar to peer-to-peer, but the counselors go in and they deliver lessons from time to time. This survey is a new component in response to some of the concerns with respect to how do we know how our students are really feeling. And this, it's really a pretty comprehensive survey, and it will be able to glean a lot of information from it, not just test anxiety, but overall school environment. Again, as I said, it traverses through HIB, so it hits on all of those counselor-type subjects and germane subjects that they deal with on a regular basis. So I think we'll get some good information from that, and then what we'll do is we'll utilize that information and take it and drive further future lessons to address those issues.
We can't. We can speak to the next public session. Okay, thank you, Michael. Go ahead.
Just to speak on the other side of it.
Okay.
Last week I thought that presentation was amazing by those kids that sang. And I specifically went out of my way to ask the child that was giving me my lesson. Now, I have a kid who not doing real well, you know that, and a little bit here and there is my little 8th grader. So I asked the kid next to me, behind me, what did he think? And he said, I'm ready, I'm excited. And I go ask about his parents. Your parents think you're testing too much? And he said, no, they want me to study more and test more. So I know there's the opposite of what's going on, and I'm not going to say there's some that are struggling and there's ones that are not struggling. And I think eventually we're going to get to that happy medium somewhere. But so I know kids are doing well also. So I understand if the scores are doing better. But
Absolutely.
I do get the other side of it. So, but I'm going to hang on to that. You're going to do this at the end of the year because you gave us our word, and
I will.
I can't speak for everybody, but I trust that.
I honor my word. We will 100% look at all of the assessments that are there. If we feel there are too many assessments, we will absolutely seek to mitigate some that we feel are too many.
But it was very, the reason why it was so moving, they empowered those kids. And to have those kids empowered like that, even if they,
It's fantastic.
So that's why I'm saying, like, these counselors or these guidance counselors, if, not just come in and, to me, sometimes filling out a survey could be stressful also.
Sure.
Empower those kids that they can do it. And it's a hard time,
I think that teachers do that on a daily basis. That's what a teacher does.
I know.
They inspire and they
we're
reach.
still struggling, some of them are
And
still-
this is, and this conversation is happening in every room, in every school district, in every place. It's an emotional feeling response. I absolutely respect how people feel and opinions, and at the end of the year, we will look at all the assessments that we do, and if I feel there are too many, then we're going to cut them down. If we feel as if that's the case, if we feel as if that the grades were not reflective and fair, we will make changes, because that's what we do. And I think if it's one thing that I've demonstrated to you is that I don't sit here and say it's my way or the highway and I never move right or left. I am perfectly fine moving right or left when I think right or left is the right course of action. And that's it. What I can't say is we're going to eliminate every district assessment or that I can make PARC go away, because I can't make promises like that. But what I can say is that I will 100% look at this reflectively, and I always do what I say I will do.
Mike, I have one more.
Sure.
I know we're in a transitionary period. Obviously, you guys know I have 2 kids in the district. But I'm also for the transparency of everything being out there. But I also don't want you to write out a policy that, because we're in a transitionary period.
For the PARC.
For the PARC.
Mm-hmm.
But I did want to point out that on the curriculum tab under PARC, the last link that you give is for PARC accessibility features and accommodations, and that letter that you did hand in is on there. I forgot who did that. Bonnie?
No, Amy.
Amy, sorry. So it is transparent in our website. I just did want to make that clear, but I think the ladies are saying, I don't know, maybe.
I will absolutely make sure they're coded correctly, as every child should be.
And it's clear on our website that this is what will happen. A will close B.
You mean for?
Well, the letter.
The refusal letter. This is just saying features and accommodations, because that's what the tab is called. Maybe we could clarify what the refusal will be, and what your policy will end up being on our website, so there's no questions.
No, she's saying what his tab, you can get what she gave us from that tab.
It's, yeah, you
That's all
can
she's saying.
retrieve it from here.
You could, absolutely.
Yeah,
It's not titled that, that's all she's saying is that it's there.
I mean, yeah, just hope it's not.
Yeah.
It's not our policy,
Yeah,
it's.
it's a procedure.
It's procedure.
Yeah, unless you put it
Well,
as a
it's
policy.
part of it.
So you misspoke, sorry, didn't you?
No, I didn't.
I understood.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, presentation of the state special services. Dr. Klein.
I thank the board once again for having the privilege to come before you and speak to you about special services. I'm going to try to be brief. Did all board members get the presentation? I believe it was sent home. All right, so I start with a 10-year review of students, classified students. And as you can see, we grew about 10% from 05 to 2012, 60-some students. And since then, we've gone down a bit, but we're relatively, remarkably in a tight range of classified students. We are not following currently the district trend of lowering the numbers, as the overall student population is going down slightly. We don't seem to be following that trend. If you look at the class on the next page, the classified students by grade, I don't see any particular pattern at this time to suggest that, we have a bubble here or a bubble there. I just think we're pretty much in a holding pattern here in terms of number of classified kids. So the question becomes, why aren't we declining with the district in terms of numbers? And I offer a couple what I believe are reasonable explanations on page 4. And one is that I know for a fact, because I get phone calls consistently on a weekly basis from families, telling me that they are considering Marlboro because they have special needs children, and asking me about the programs, et cetera. So I know that we continue, as we have for many years, to attract families to move here with kids with special needs. There's no doubt about that, and particularly students with autism, because our program is known out in the community. And I also believe that the overall push nationally and in the state, the increased rigor in curriculum. Now, curriculum does not cause a disability in a student, but if you look at what a learning disability is, it is a difference either statistically or functionally between expectations and achievement. So when the expectations rise, students with disabilities, hopefully they rise in achievement, but sometimes they don't rise as quickly. So that gap widens, and that would increase the number of students who might be classified. So I believe that's another reason we are seeing more students classified. And if you look at reading levels, for instance, when the Lexile levels were raised, our students aren't quite keeping up with that gap. As the Lexile levels raise, we're seeing more kids classified with reading disabilities. So, and again, it's no different than they were 5-10 years ago, but what has increased is the expectation. Okay, so I'll take any questions at the end if you don't mind. On page 5, I look at the number of out-of-district placements. We've stayed in a pretty tight range since 2003, from 34 to 44. What has been a trend lately, and I want the board to be aware of this, are the number of unilateral placements that parents have been making into non-approved private schools for students with disabilities. What a non-approved school is, they are schools that really choose not to become approved by the state because they don't want to be tied to all the state regulations. So,
Robert, could you explain what the unilateral process is if a parent does that?
yeah, a unilateral placement is simply a parent pulling their child out of our school and placing them in a school such as Cambridge or the Barnstable Academy or the Lewis School, etc. Those are non-approved schools for students with disabilities, and then informing us in writing that they have done this, claiming we have failed to offer an appropriate program, and demanding that we fund the placement. At which point, we generally go into some litigation, and at times we look to support these placements. I will tell you we're in a couple cases now where we're not supporting the placements, and we're heading, in one particular case, I know we're heading into litigation, and we'll keep the board apprised as we go into it. And in another case, we might be heading to litigation. We can support students in non-approved schools using two mechanisms. One is called a Naples placement, and that is named after a legislature from years ago named Naples that allows districts to place students in these non-approved schools. What you need to do, though, with a Naples placement is I need to sign a form that basically says there is no other school in the state, there's no other program we could find in the state that's appropriate, an approved program that's appropriate, and therefore I'm placing the student in this placement. I refuse to sign those forms because they're not true. Students are generally placed in these programs because that's what parents want. And then the other mechanism is the one we use where we get a judge to endorse a legal settlement. And as I say here, the district has a very strong preference to use the latter. I believe that protects us legally. If I sign a Naples placement and that program turns out to be inappropriate, we can come back and be held accountable. If a judge signs an endorsement of a legal settlement, and in that legal settlement it says basically the district's held harmless going forward, then we're in a much better position. So I always force a judge's endorsement of a legal settlement on that, and those every now and then come to the board for your approval. Okay, so I just wanted to explain to you what that's all about. Generally, if we place a student into an approved school for students with disabilities, then it's simply a board resolution that you approve, that student XYZ, student number 828, has been placed in the Bridge Academy, tuition, et cetera, and you approve that. You've always approved that. But these are different. When a legal settlement comes to you related to this, that's what this is all about, non-approved schools. And there's particularly with reading programs, these non-approved schools seem to be better than the approved ones, so parents have been increasingly going towards those schools, Cambridge, Lewis, etc. So that's why you have seen a few of these in the past years, and I believe you'll be seeing some more as time goes forward, and they're increasing. But I will tell you that some of these schools, I believe, are better than the approved schools. Okay, so if you look at the number of out-of-district students, as I said, last year I sat here and I said we had 38, and I said next year I'll bet you we're going to be somewhere about the same. And as it turns out, at this point, we're at 38 again. I know we're losing several in 8th grade, but we always seem to stay somewhere in a tight range. Right now, I believe we're going to stay in the 30s for the foreseeable future in terms of out-of-district placements. And when you think about it, we have about 800 classified kids. So, we have less than 5% in out-of-district placements. The state average is about 10%, so we do quite well with that, largely attributable to our strong programs in district. Okay, assistance on page 7. We stayed exactly flat with the number from last year. And this is from December of 2014. We had 94 full-time equivalent assistants. 94 assistants. I'm not sure what. Yeah, we had 94 FTEs. 32 of those, we service 80, I didn't make this clear. 81 autistic kids are serviced in district, and of those, 32 full-time equivalent assistants are working with those 81 students, and that's a ratio of 1 assistant for every 2.53 students with autism in the district. And that largely drives why we have the need for that number of assistants in the district. And that slide is not as clear as I would like it to be, and I will make sure that next year that's a little clearer. Okay, summary. And as I've said, both the number of special ed students and those placed in out-of-district settings is remaining fairly constant over the past several years. This is happening despite the reduction in the district's overall population. The number of students with autism service in the district is also remaining fairly constant, driving the continued need for the number of assistants in the program. And at this point, I would be very happy to answer any questions that board members may have.
Okay, Don.
So I've asked this question before, and I'll ask it again.
Okay.
So are we in compliance with all our IEPs and 504s? So are we fully staffed?
Are we in compliance? We are in compliance to the best of our ability. There are some places where we do not have assistants only because we cannot get assistants to do the job at this point. But we are substantially in compliance throughout the district.
When you say we can't get assistance, explain that.
I can explain that. I've probably hired about 25 to 30 substitute instructional assistants this year to help us fill positions as they come about, as soon as they arise. And very often what happens is that an individual will go into a classroom setting and they either don't like the hours, they don't fit the hours of their personal, their own personal schedules. Some people have come back to me and said that I don't want to work on the playground, I don't want to work in the lunchroom, I don't want to work in an art classroom, I want to be in an academic setting, and unfortunately, our children are included in all of the settings across the district. So, and if their IEPs require that they need an assistant with them on the playground to help facilitate social interaction, that's what I need. And we provide training to these individuals to help them facilitate those types of services. But in the end, the individuals feel that they they want to be in more academic type settings. I can tell you this week, it happened this week. I had a sub in a classroom. The position's been open since November. I couldn't get anybody to fill it, and she came to me just the other day and said, this is not what I want to do. So I'm hiring people weekly. I'm hiring people, and it's just very hard for some people to mold into the positions. But on the flip side, some of our more difficult vacancies that we have, where our more involved children, I have found outstanding individuals to fill those positions. We've been very fortunate. So that's where I'm at. I have about 7 unfilled positions at this point.
But they're constantly looking.
Yeah, I know.
Linda and
I'm
Robert,
not.
So it's
I
it's not
interview
as if
constantly.
that won't-
It's a part of my day. So.
Robert, could you also explain, because I know we've talked about this, our philosophy on, the unilateral placement. There are times when that can be appropriate.
Yeah.
Can you explain that just for a sec, please?
When a parent makes a unilateral placement, there are times when you start digging into the student's records that you see that the district has not met the student's needs very well, and sometimes the parents are right. Now there's a lot of times, the teams will verbally, because they work closely with the kids, they feel like we're doing a great job, but when you start looking at the data, they're not. So when you have a 4th grader who's reading on a 1st grade reading level, and the parent, for a year has been prompting the team to get more reading help, and we've been doing what we can in the district, but there are kids who need a reading across all the subjects. So they need reading instruction in social studies. They need reading instruction in math. They need reading instruction in science. And what these unilateral schools and some of the state-approved schools, they get reading all day long through their academics. I mean, they get reading instruction either in Orton-Gillingham or Wilson. They get those strategies embedded throughout. We don't do that as a matter of course. Our teachers aren't trained necessarily to teach reading. But in these schools, the science teacher is trained to teach reading. So when a parent does make a unilateral placement like that, we look at the data, and in some cases, the lawyer, myself, we say, it was really probably not a bad placement, so we will push for the legal settlement at that point. I mean, we try to leverage the best deal we can get out of it, but it's an appropriate placement. Now, there are a couple now. There's one absolutely that we don't believe was an appropriate placement, and we're going to fight that. And that's coming up. After being Newark, our court venue has been moved to Newark, which I'm not thrilled. I'm happy about it in some ways. I'm not thrilled that I don't have to drive up to Newark. But on February 26th, I need to be in Newark in court. So, and that is the first day of court on this particular case, which we are going all the way on. Win or lose, we're gonna fight this one. So we will keep the board apprised as we move along. But yes, some unilateral placements. If it's a good school, and a lot of these non-approved schools are good, and if the student has the need to be there, we will work for a legal settlement and not fight it. But again, if you look at our total number of out-of-district students, we do a phenomenal job here. I mean, we're in the 30s out of 800 kids. So, 730, well, it's now 700 kids, but if you look at our speech-only kids, we're in the 800 or 900. So, in terms of the number of out-of-district kids here, I'm quite pleased with the low numbers that we seem to maintain. And we've been in the 30s since I've been here, high 20s, low 40s. It hasn't really changed very much. So, okay.
Anyone else?
I just have a quick question. It's more of a curiosity question.
Sure.
Over 10% of a population is classified. Looking around at other communities in comparison, are we a high number? Or are we right in there with the rest of the?
I think the state average is somewhere about 14 to 15%. We're a little bit lower than the state average, but we have been climbing slightly through the past several years. We're approaching the state average. So.
No, you made a statement that said parents, and you have a great program. I know I've always spoken well of the education that family friends have gotten in this district. So I know what you're capable of. But you made an interesting statement about other parents wanting to move into this community. And I look at it and I scratch my head and I say, okay, how does the state look at that? And from a funding standpoint, do they look at funding and say, well, you've got 14% of your children in the special needs, or versus another community, therefore we get more money from the state, or is that just a wish?
Mrs. Barrago, can you take that?
I knew you were going to
anything with money.
I knew you were going to punt to her, but
Yeah,
I'm just very curious how the state looks at that. It says, okay, because they can move in, get an apartment, and get the best services in the world. I'm just curious how the state looks at it.
It looks at it by pupil population of what you're.
Not classified versus non-classified, it's
No.
just the population.
Yeah.
No.
We used to get more.
You
We
get
used
no
to
reward for
get
that.
money, right? For
Yeah,
classified.
long time ago.
Yeah,
Long time ago. Yeah.
that's all changed.
Because since sitting on this board, you look at the numbers, and it's just that for a phenomenal job, it's an exorbitant amount of money that it takes to get it done. So,
Well,
but I compliment you guys on the work that you do.
The other rub to this is that on top of just the special ed cost to educate them, transportation is in
Yeah.
there. And that's excluded from everything.
And you and me have had those conversations before.
Absolutely.
Where is this?
Yeah.
Yes.
It drives me crazy when it costs as much to transport a child as it does the tuition to that out-of-district placement. But unfortunately,
Right.
It is
both
what it
together.
is.
I just want you to know that we meet probably about once every 2 weeks. We do everything through a Google Doc. Robert and Linda are very organized, hardworking, and they fight all the ones that we should fight. I want you to know that. And Robert and Linda are very passionate about what they do. So they are very passionate about making sure special education here in Marlboro is top notch. So
Thank you, sir. Debbie?
I just had a couple questions on actual line items, if you don't mind.
Sure. Well, we didn't do the
We're not
budget
at
yet.
Okay, go ahead then.
No, that's coming up next.
Okay.
You wanna-
I thought they were sitting down and they're leaving.
Well, I was going to suggest that since they're sitting in
Yeah,
that hot
that's
seat,
it,
let's
that's it.
just
Are
start.
you going
on
to do an
their-
overview first anyway, before?
I could do whatever
I think
you'd
you
like.
can do the overview first.
Okay.
All right, so you guys can chill for a second. We're going to start with an overview of the budget first. And so the public knows, we're doing it a little differently this year, which is refreshing. Normally, we've gone through the whole budget, at the end of the road, we figured out what it's going to look like. We're starting knowing up front what the budget looks like, what the numbers are going to be, and then we're going to talk about each section, decide how we get there or don't get there. So a little different way.
Overview first. No, that's just the special education State of the Union.
So Cindy?
I can't type and
Okay.
answer at the same time. Okay. What you have here is our full budget, and there's a lot of things in here, and I'm going to tell you something, there is something in here that I have to change right off the bat, is the adoption, the tentative adoption has to take place on March 10th, not March 17th. So you're backing up a week. So I apologize for that, but when I looked at the calendar today, I realized it's got to be March 10th.
10th has to, the 17th date has to change to the 10th.
Correct. So
It's
we
right
can
on the main
review, but
page.
it is what it is. So what we've done is we've highlighted in here what the big changes are, but I think I'm going to cut to the chase at the very end of all of this and go to what we started with last year. At the end of last year, when we talked about the budget, we had brought to you and told you we were going to be at a hole. I was projecting a hole of over $2 million. Well, you hit it. You hit it, because just to maintain what we have with no changes, with the increased salaries, et cetera, health increases, just to maintain everything, okay, you were in a hole of $2.4 million, which means you have to hit your bank cap. Otherwise, to do that, you would have to cut staff. $2.4 million is a nut that you can't take off without cutting staff. It's too much of a nut. You don't have things to play with.
And the reason, if I'm wrong, you can tell me.
Oh,
We
go
haven't,
ahead.
haven't gone to cap
Correct.
typically for many, many years.
I
So-
could probably go back and count on one hand how many times in my 19 years this district has gone to cap.
Right, so. And every time you don't go to cap, your base stays where your base stays, so that you work off your
Correct.
base next year.
Exactly.
And that's where you get to $2.4 million hole eventually.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly, because you don't have, like, if you look at some of the revenues and stuff, you don't have the revenues that we've had before. And one of the things we're looking at is where revenues are decreasing. For instance, tuition is going down $100,000 because we're only planning on 4 classes of KCP versus the 5 that we budgeted for last year, but we only ended up with 4 classes this year. You don't have the excess surplus. You don't have the large amounts of budgeted fund balance that we've had in the past. Basically, the wells are dry. You know, the money tree can work for maintenance, but it's not working for other things, because you can't use maintenance reserve for other things, and that's even dwindling down too. So now the good news is, when we presented this budget and sent it home to you on Friday, we sent it home and said we estimated the tax increase to be 5.7 cents. That was without the new rateable number. Okay, and the rateable number is important because what happens is that as that rateable number increases, it means the tax levy gets spread out along all that many more money, and so therefore your tax impact is going to go down. The tax increase is going to go down to a property
For
owner.
homeowner.
To the homeowner. So I have an update for each one of you with the new rateable number. And the rateable number is not 100% of what the township gave me, because I don't know how much you all know about what's going on in Monmouth County that actually started last year. Monmouth County is part of the state's demonstration program. And what is happening is that they put an assessment out and then they allow to appeal. Well, what's happening is that she has a lot of appeals over there, but the idea of it is to get the assessments in town to be almost to 100% of what your sale value is on your homes. So that is where Marlboro is and every district in the county. So our ratables went up. I'm going to tell you, I have a sheet of paper, 300, I had all this set up. Yeah, hand these out because they're two new numbers. I want to say $378 million, the ratables went up.
Cindy, are those subject to appeals, though?
Yes, that's why I'm not putting it up the full value of what the rateable number is. Because last year, hold on a second. I gotta put my sheet of paper. Last year, the preliminary number I got, is there anything in there? Oh, there it is. They went up $376 million. Last year's rateable number I got, okay, when we started the budget process, only went down 0.21%. I'm taking the number down 1 full percent. And I've talked to the town, and they're comfortable with using the number that I'm using because they don't believe the appeals will decrease it any more than that. But again, it's a guess. It's based on what happened previous year. It's based on what they know, et cetera, and stuff. But I'm pretty comfortable where we're at. What was interesting is that, and it proves what I said earlier, was I thought the ratables went up, and I only had the bottom line number of the ratables until about 5 o'clock tonight, 6 o'clock tonight. The ratables didn't go up because the commercial properties went on. It went up because of residential property increases.
Based upon sale prices.
Yes, because the assessments are going up to almost 100% of what the sales value is.
That's not on resale, that's on assessment.
I'm sorry?
That's not on resale, that's on assessment. That's not on resale, that's on assessment.
The way it was explained to me. It was based on bringing it up to what the sales value is.
On assessment, not on resale. It's different. Different number.
So could you make it clear, so the 5.7%, that's
5.7 cents has now gone down to
what's the reality of what the people really feel?
1.1 cents.
Say it again.
1.1 cent. And it's on the sheet. Yeah.
I see it, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But that's still with going to bank cap.
Still going to.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Cindy,
Using bank cap.
The back
is
page is what it was, the
Yeah.
front page is what it is.
No, the first page is with the new rateable number. The
Right.
second page is with the extra things that Dr. Hibbs wanted, which would
Okay.
take it up to 2 cents.
That's 5.7.
So, Mike,
What line are we looking at here, just to clarify it?
I'm sorry?
What line are we looking at on here?
I'll come over and show you. And it's not
What?
5.7 only feels like 1.1.
Here?
Yeah, 1.1.
No, she's saying that's what it'll feel like, but that's not what we're actually still gonna go to the 5.7.
Yeah.
you're still going to
You're still going to 5 point.
But the assessed value.
I'm not going,
$300,000.
thinking tax increase is one thing. I'm still raising the taxes, but what's happening is because your base is higher, that your denominator, your impact is going to be less.
They won't feel 5.7.
Correct.
This is Common Core 5.77.
Yeah, this is going to be math. So this is Common Core.
Okay,
Budget.
instead of dividing it.
Don't get it.
I'm trying
Stressed
to.
because look, I'm breaking out in hives. Look, I got to take Benadryl sitting up here. I'm all stressed
It
out.
would be like
Must be
saying
budget
that
time.
your house, you want to hear it?
Breaking out in hives. Look,
You want to hear it?
I'm all stressed out.
Would you like to hear would you like to hear the answer? It would be like saying that your house in 2014 is worth $400,000, and when they reassess for the next year, your house is now, because of the reassessments, is worth $500,000. I'm just using numbers, it's just a number. So when they reassess the town, because 20% of the town every year will be reassessed under this new, under like, it's like
The
5
demonstration
counties-
program.
It's 4 or 5 counties in the state are doing this. So 20% every year is being done. So these 20%, so because of this, the reassessment of the town is valued higher. So it will be, so 400,000, let's say 500,000, it's changing the assessment for the town. So those houses will be worth more, which changes the assessment for the town. And so the value it just changes the number. It just gets spread out more around the town.
Cindy, I guess what I was trying to joke about was that the 5.7 cents, totally get it, I understand that part. But how's it sustainable? Because bank cap has got to go away sometime. And if we're going to our 2% plus using some bank cap,
It's not going to
Right,
go
but
away.
your base
Your base goes up.
your base goes
base
up.
goes up.
Yeah,
Your
once
base
you
goes
have that
up.
bank
Okay.
cap, it's always included in your budget.
Correct.
It would have been the same thing as if you went to 2% all those years ago. So think of it as
You wouldn't
took
have had
this,
bank
I
cap.
and then you add
understand,
that.
but
It's
there's
not
an
a one shot.
expiration. I'm trying to
It's not a
remember.
one shot
no,
deal
there's an expiration
Oh,
of 3
no,
years
okay.
for bank cap, correct?
that you have to use it for.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay, so if we're using, how much was it again,
2.4.
2.4? So if we're using 2.4 and feeling the shape of 1 point something cents, what's the expiration of the remainder?
There is no, well, what you don't use, you have 3.1 to use that'll go away this year.
Oh, it's all gone, the 3.1 is gone.
3.1 will go away
That
this
was
year.
my question.
Yes,
And then
yes,
since we're going to cap this year and
Now,
above,
there's no
there
other
won't be
bank
no
cap.
bank cap from this year.
correct, but then you have 1.6
That will expire at the
that
end
will
of next year.
expire when we do 16, 17.
It's basically a rollover effect, is really.
Yeah.
Yes,
But we lose it this
3
year
years.
because we're going to cap,
Well,
if we
and
go
the
to
fo-
cap.
But
the
I will-
following year is only $247,000-ish.
yes,
Because you have gone higher up. in
right,
that-
and you will
in that
have
time
zero
frame.
from this year because you're above.
We
Correct.
don't get to bank anything, you went to.
No.
No.
So-
But the base will be up enough that we'll be able to pay the
Exactly,
bills.
that's what you need.
You're
the
going to
base
tell us
for.
if the base will be up enough, that we'll able to survive
So it'll
years
be
going forward.
sustainable with our typical
2%.
1 to
Correct.
2%.
Correct.
Cindy, put on your Karnak, great Karnak hat. Where do you see the state aid going?
I'm projecting flat, and I believe it will be flat. I don't think there will be an increase. That's multiple reasons. Number one, what our governor is doing politically.
Well, that's why I asked, do you see it going down? Because
No, I don't. I think it would be
It would be the first time that he would have done that. I mean, right? I mean, aside from taking the money away to begin with, the last 2 years have been increases.
last year was an increase, yeah. So I think we're very comfortable in flat.
Are you putting it? Do we know what
That goes in under tab
34.B subset of?
Yeah, what is it?
It goes in the
Tab
front.
5.
5?
When you give me the-
After all these years, I'm disappointed, guys.
Carol was
5.
the only one who knew this book front and back.
So
I'm
this
going to write
replaces
5
that?
on here now, and I'll play
Yeah,
later.
just put it on top.
So we're keeping this one?
Yeah, keep it in there, because that's what we originally put in and sent home to you.
Homework.
Reminder, read the
Why does it have to be a do now? It can just be homework.
Hey, I can put lead in there, you know?
Sure, want to answer everybody right away.
Yeah, but I'm going to quiz you, because I want to make sure you've thoroughly digested all this work. So there are some other things that I want to highlight in here, and Robert and Linda can talk to about a couple of them. Michael can talk to a couple of his also. We've been having nursing issues with students who need nurses. They have to have nurses in the classroom on their transportation, et cetera. So therefore, we have to budget for that. So that's in there. There's a new testing and analysis program that is needed for special services. There's curriculum writing that needs to be done. There's a new assessment, it's called a WISC, that needs to be done also. It's called Weckler Intelligence Scale for Children. Yeah, I'm reading off the memo. Curriculum writing for units of study and pacing guide alignment. Genesis evaluation model, we're going to change to Genesis from Teachscape. We need to upgrade our wireless, upgrade all over, because otherwise I think Mr. Annie's going to tear whatever hair he has left out.
I thought we did all the buildings.
We just upgraded it.
We did 5 years ago.
Wait a minute. I just
We
did
did
Genesis.
No.
Well, we're
Two
on
separate
two different
things. So Genesis, essentially, you need a staff. You need the place where you actually input the staff evaluations. Teachscape is how we evaluate our Danielson observation system. Teachscape is riddled with just awfulness. I don't know how to put it any nicer. It doesn't work. It loses data. The gear just turns and turns and turns. So Genesis has a staff evaluation piece that we are going to use in lieu of Teachscape. So really, that's taking from one to go to another. Correct, Mr. Blum? Now that question I think you guys had over here was different than Genesis.
No.
So let's go to that.
So I thought that we probably did a wireless study when we did all the Chromebooks, and we said that we were okay and everything was handling everything. So I'm confused.
Accessibility, but he's got, and Tom's going to be coming to the meeting next week to further explain, yes.
Yeah.
I thought we just did that.
No, you actually, when we started the wireless program, it was 5 years ago. I thought it was just like 2 years ago, and I went back and I'm like, no, it's the access points. You've got to upgrade them. So-
I got to be honest with you. I thought that conversation.
Yeah, we had it,
Yeah, because I remember saying to him, "Is that going to be enough?"
and everybody kept.
And you were hopping. I remember you.
Yeah.
No, we
enough
had
is
that
enough.
conversation.
Yeah, I know we did.
So we have to have that.
Week.
Well, he'll be here. So
He'll be here.
When you were here, we had this
Yeah,
conversation.
just last year.
When I was here?
Yeah.
It might have been a blur.
It was before me, it doesn't count.
We have to do half the roof.
BC, I think
You
it was a
don't
B.
have an option, so we've got half the roof, the middle school roof in here. Security upgrades.
That's 500, right?
What?
500.
It's $1 million.
The million. The number of the roof. I forgot how much.
It's $1 million
$1 million
in this
for half.
budget, yes, because the roof is
Wait,
$2 million.
half the roof, it's $1
Yes.
million?
The roof is over $2 million.
This is middle.
Yes.
Yes, middle school roof.
Yes, but we split it.
Yes. We
I
need,
thought it was 1.5 for the whole roof.
it's $2.2 million for the whole roof.
Shouldn't-
Yes.
I know she's reading everything. but she shouldn't read
We
the
need
window.
some equipment. We have about
No, you're fine.
Security stuff,
$12,000.
can they just-
I'm sorry?
The security stuff, just generalized, we're not going to.
Yes, I'm not, no, I kind of went by that. Equipment for a student that's transitioning, we have about $12,000 in the budget for equipment for a student that's transitioning to the middle school. We need a new mail machine, there's some column lifts and a floor jack that are needed in transportation, and a 3D printer for applied technology programs at the middle school.
Both middle schools are getting a 3D printer?
I'm sorry?
I want to make sure both.
Yes,
Not one over the
at
other.
middle schools, I'm sorry.
Because I'm still fit to be tied over the auditorium, but we won't go there.
Deb? You lost it?
3D printer. I have a question about that. I think they're great, and the high schools are using them, and the clubs are using them. But is there a way of us using a service, like a club, coming to the school? Because they bring all their supplies, and the clubs are paid for it.
You mean for the 3D printer?
I'm just saying, you're talking about bringing in a 3D printers
Yeah.
inside both middle schools.
Sure.
We were at the conference
Yeah, but that was
and
like a
discussing,
after-school program.
right, that's an after-school program. I was just wondering, maybe you can look into, or whoever does that.
Oh, we can
Look
start. Yeah.
into the programs that are after-school programs, because they come with instructors and supplies.
But this is for
To the
our
schools.
during the day program
Yeah.
for applied technology,
Yeah, it's for applied, it's for. certain
Into the
classes.
curriculum.
into the curriculum.
In the curriculum.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
And Michael, how much is the 3D printer?
They're
No, they're not.
amazing, though.
They do vary, approximately 2,000 apiece, and then
You're not talking about.
Oh, okay.
I'm not,
Thanks, Michael. Good frame of reference.
You ain't a
But there is,
yeah.
you should look into it, though. Those programs that they have are really amazing.
Help me understand, like off-grid, I'll be happy to.
Yeah, I will.
Okay, we talked about the tax levy, we talked about the tuition, state aid is flat, extraordinary aid we're going to use to purchase the Chromebooks we need, as we've done in the past, so that's not being budgeted for. Play proceeds are increased a bit to reflect budget expenditures, that's a zero. What's in their budget is what the revenues are, all the rest of the revenues have remained the same. Excess surplus is at $391,000 from last year's budget, and we're putting in $750,000 of projected savings in this current year's budget, which is under tab 8, and a decrease. We're right now the only decrease, Mr. Dwyer, to go back to your question, is state aid. Debt service on state aid fluctuates, and it's been going down, so I'm projecting a decrease of about $30,000 in state aid for debt service. In debt service only aid. That's the only place I've decreased it at all, because ours has historically gone down every year. And we have the various appropriations. Tonight we're going to concentrate on curriculum and special services, and I've highlighted, I think I've touched on most of their changes in this budget. As I said earlier, we had told you about the deficit that you were going to be facing coming into this budget, and now with the new ratables, right now, your budget, if we take out, excluding what Dr. Hibbs had brought to you in December, if you take that out, it's now, you're looking at a 1.1 cent tax increase.
Okay. What I'd like to do real quick, if you could, Dr. Hibbs, is explain again what you're really looking for, because I really want the board to know upfront the total budget. So if we're going to contemplate some of that, that would maybe make the 1.1, 1.2, or 1.3, I don't know.
Can I ask a quick
Sure.
question before Dr. Hibbs goes? I have a question on Genesis. What is the exact number that's the increase for the staff evaluation module? Because I thought I saw something on Genesis on our line items, but.
Well, it's within.
It's in curriculum.
Within the curriculum one.
Mhm.
Which line would that be? Is that the online
Contracted services.
Sure.
There's other stuff in there.
What are we looking at? Like, what increase are we looking at? Just for Genesis? Because when we first brought Genesis,
We'll go over it again. I just want something done to that.
when Dr.
Looked
Hibbs
like
first brought
increased
Genesis to the table, I
$10,000.
asked if it was going to be the same price for us, and now there's an increase already. And we've
Well,
only
yeah,
had it for a
it's
year.
not for we're buying another program. So you're buying the staff
But
evaluation model.
how much do we
I
not
just-
spend on Teachscape to offset the Genesis? I guess that's Debbie's question.
Okay, what did we pay for, what they want to know is, what did we pay for Teachscape last year?
No, we're getting another module for something.
We don't know. And these are questions we'll find out for you. So you want to know what we paid for Teachscape.
Yeah, what's our difference? How's that? Nice and easy.
Okay.
I guess, was there a yearly fee for Teachscape that we're not going to pay this year, and we're using Genesis instead? So
We'll give you that.
Every once in a while, apples and oranges, what shape?
We'll give you that.
And Bonnie had a question as well.
What our benefits package, how much is that approximately?
Benefits approximately,
Which helps.
Well, health and then, and we have.
well, total benefits are budgeted at $16 million.
Yeah, but what is it per individual? I'm sure you know
About
that.
$32,000
$32,000 a person
for family coverage.
for family. And what is it for single, do you know?
14?
No, I put 12-ish right now, but they'll go up again in a moment.
32,000
family, 12,000 single?
Yeah.
That's net of contribution,
No.
or no?
No.
Because everybody's their own contributions.
But if you took an aggregate number?
I have to be honest, we've never done that.
Oh.
Because it fluctuates for everybody, because it's based on your salary and whether you take family, parent-child,
No, that's what
or...
I'm saying, the totals, not individual, but total out minus total in, it gives you a net.
$16 million.
That's 16, okay.
Mhm.
Which part? The benefits?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm sure we can get it broken out. Can we get that broken out?
What's that?
The benefits packages, like how much that actually, well, you know it's 16 million, so you know how much we're getting back?
Yeah.
You mean with contribution?
What are you trying to?
The actual impact.
The actual
It's,
impact.
the impact is $16 million.
It's 16 million.
Yes, that's net.
That's net, okay.
Okay, sir?
Does that answer your question?
No, I want you to,
Oh, gotcha.
okay, we good?
Yes. So Michael is asking me with the fact that you have, regardless of 5.7 cents or 1.1 cents, what would I recommend? All right. So at the end of the day, even though Mrs. Vecchia will probably want to throw things at my head, love you, Carol. If you boil it down to what do I need to walk away from here to make us better, I need to walk away with the 2 data people and then the assistant supervisor. So if you want to pair everything else out, I can make everything else work. Those 3 things will make us infinitely better. Right now, I have 2 very hardworking supervisors in math and ELA. Kim is also a very hardworking supervisor, not in math and ELA, that really spend a lot of time doing observations, guiding the program. They're in classrooms. They can't do what needs to be done in breaking out data to get that back into the hands of teachers to drive instruction. It's just not possible. So, Michael, to your question, so if you could pare it down from, I think it's the 550,000, 575.
No, it's actually
what would it pare down to? What would I be able to live with and make us better? Those.
Say it again.
No, I know.
So we added wrong, so it's 550,000.
It's 550 that's listed there, yeah.
550.
So what's the number, for the?
So I was right. I want a correction for
And
that.
what's the new number if we?
It would be 325.
All over it. So to pare it down to what I think would be what I could live with to make us better would be 2 data people at $200,000 and then the supervisor. Okay? I can deal without, the other aspects. Now, don't get me wrong. I do believe that the middle schools should have math facilitators. They have none. The argument can be made both ways that, our content specialists are at the middle school. However, there still is no math facilitator at either middle school. And I initially came to you asking to increase both reading and math. So I don't want you to misunderstand me. I still think those things would make us infinitely better as well. But if I had to go 931 on it, I'm going a shade under 9 with that because I think the data specialists are more important.
And Cindy, what does that change to 1.1 to?
If I can figure out how this laptop works,
Okay.
I'll tell you in a second.
Can I ask
Oh, to
something?
5.7. Yeah, well,
It'll probably be a half a cent, so roughly maybe 0.4 of a cent, so it'll probably be 1.5.
With extreme, all due respect, I don't want this coming out wrong.
Go for it. Never leads in well that way, does it?
No, and I hate starting something that way, but
All
I
right.
have to.
I'll argue back.
Okay. We don't have math facilitators in the middle schools,
Mhm.
but on majority approval, we received facilitators for Abbott's Early Learning Center. Last year, did we approve
Yeah,
that?
you did.
Okay. I'm just wondering, and this is your zone, educationally wise, how are the facilitators more important at a kindergarten level rather than a middle school level? More important to have, not more important.
So if I had to
Obviously.
prioritize, so you're talking early childhood. So it's the very beginning stages of learning, which I think is a crucial time to get in and actually remediate 100%. Moreover, you're talking about the kids at Abbott versus the kids at middle. By putting one person at Abbott where we're half day makes a difference, whereas putting one person at middle with almost 1,100 kids, don't get me wrong. I think that is something you should have. But if you look at what the concept of the data person isn't just a data person. They're going to be essentially an extra math and reading coach as well. So I'll still have those aspects. So not only would it be a master coach to be above the reading specialists and the math facilitators, but they'll also be able to get data into the hands of teachers readily and easily.
I guess I'm confused more about that too, because the data specialists, everybody that we've hired over the past few years, and I mean, I've only been here for a year and a half, I don't remember. But everybody that has been hired because of their data background as well as everything else, you know, with forward.
That's what we loved about Mrs. Vecchio's presentation.
So
Yeah.
my question is, how come are we spending extra or want to spend extra money on skills that we should already have in other supervisors or administrators in our?
It's not about the skills. I want to be very, very clear about that. You know, Michael, Kim, Carol, exceedingly incredible skills. It's simply the fact that unless you want to get Carol a cot, I'd be okay with that. She can't. She
won't.
She can't stay here. You know, it's not.
It's just more work.
Yeah, it's just more work than anybody can physically do, and that's, you know, what should be happening. You know, and I hate to bring up assessment, but whatever assessments you give, you should be, you know, able to look at that and disaggregate it based upon, you know, school to school, school to district. How did the kids do in a class? You know, was number one, you know, a hotbed topic with 47% of the kids getting it wrong, and we just don't have that process in place. And Carol and Michael and Kim and Michael, they're just not capable of doing it. It's peanut butter bread is what it is.
And the programs that we have now are not easily accessible to throw into.
Which
Like, are we using the resources that we already have in whatever programs that you're using? I don't know which assessments you're talking about, so I'm not sure.
Well,
but for whatever the assessments that go back to our curriculum supervisors, they're not.
Absolutely, we use everything that we use that can generate data. We use, but the simple fact of the matter is, we don't have the manpower or the woman power to make that translate.
It's more data entry and comparison charts, and it just,
Not
I
at
mean,
all.
the extras.
So what it'll be is that, so you'll put someone below Michael, above the math facilitators, and the same thing for the reading specialists. They would have master coach duties to help all those people do the exact same thing, and then they would also be in charge of breaking out data for everything that arose data. So for your achieves, for your study islands, for everything that we would have that would give you data, they would be able to take that data, translate it for teachers individually, and make sure that got to principals to get deployed to teachers.
Okay, so taking the data part out of this.
Okay.
Their master coaches aren't our current 1st through 5th facilitators are coaches?
They're coaches, yes.
So is there a possibility that we could hire somebody for the data rather than the data and the master coaching? Only because it's an extra 200,000. I mean, I know that we're talking about smaller numbers, but again.
In my opinion, no, that would not make you stronger. Because if you don't go that route, you're not going for an educator. You're just going for anyone that can sit down and look at numbers. I don't think that makes you stronger. Just don't.
But we have the educators in place already, no?
Well, I mean, do you have educators in place? Sure, you have educators in place.
We need more master coaches.
Yeah. I wouldn't be coming to you telling you I needed it if I didn't think I needed it.
Thank you.
Didn't we also, the last time you I'll take the microphone, I'm sorry. Didn't we also discuss the last time that you discussed the data specialists for both the ELA and the math?
Yes.
That I know Mr. Blown and I had touched on it, that these people would be looking at raw data, and they needed to be kind of specialists in math and ELA to be able to look at the raw data, to be able to sort it out, and to be able to then put it in formats and to be able to decipher it to the people who needed it, so that they would be able to utilize it better than the way it's being done now, because you guys would be able to then utilize it better and still be able to do your jobs. Am I correct?
Absolutely.
So these people would be kind of in between and be able to utilize that raw data. But it's kind of taking them too much time away from the jobs that they're doing.
Absolutely.
Um,
Yeah,
So-
I don't, look,
And there's too much raw data.
I think Michael does actually sleep here. Carol's close to it. I just,
There's too much raw data.
yeah, there's not enough time in the day. I mean, the guy, I've said this to you before, you're administratively thin anyway. I mean, Kim right now has almost 100 observations. 100 observations, in addition to leading educational tech. It's just not, you can't expect people to get everything done when that's just
And
how
to
we
be clear,
operate.
those are observations that you impose. Those observations are mandatory.
Yeah, that's Achieve NJ. We can't do anything about
But
those
we
numbers.
have to remember that Dr. Abbott, when we were sitting here, Michael, not some of the other board members, I think Victoria was here also, had thinned out administrative staff as people retired and left. I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
And he didn't always replace
Yeah, and he didn't replace them and had combined positions. So we were administratively thin because of that. So, Dr. Hibbs is just putting in some of the positions, maybe in a different format,
Yep.
because we have different needs today than we did back then, but we were administratively thin.
How about Michael, Carol? Michael, would any of you like to talk for a sec about why this might be beneficial?
Sure. And if any of you feel free to come up as well, you can.
Sure, okay.
Sure.
Not twisting your arm, are we?
Mrs. Rosenwald, you hit the nail on the head when you said that we are in a different world right now, right? Under the mandates of Achieve New Jersey, our observation load has tripled as an administrative team. That takes a lot of the supervisors away from all of the other things they had traditionally done. Well, actually, I shouldn't say that. I just should say it adds on to their workload. So being that we were administratively, I guess, thin, to use your words, at that time worked, it's no longer working. And we're coming to you telling you it's not working. We are keeping the straw above water, but just barely. Dr. Hibbs alluded to it. There's not a night that Carol or Michael leave here. It's a regular basis. They're out of here around 8 o'clock or so, 7, 8 o'clock at night on a daily basis, and they're working 12, 13-hour days, which we understand is, sometimes required here, and we do it. But speaking to the two data people, we're actually utilizing, or the plan would be to utilize teaching staff to assist in that piece. We do have to speak to our math facilitators and our reading specialists, primarily at the elementary level. They do data mining as well, but we are also transitioning those individuals to be in the classrooms more. So our vision is to really, and you look at any of the research, pushing into classrooms is always better than pulling students out and remediating in that way. So we've really made a concerted effort to get those math facilitators and the reading specialists at the elementary level into classrooms more. When you do that, there's a give, right? If you get them into classrooms more, that takes them away from a lot of the data mining that they were doing. Now, again, to their credit, they're still data mining. They are going above and beyond to the point where you recently approved them to receive a stipend for that. And so, we did find money in our federal NCLB grant to fund that. But that's part of, it might look like we are saving money per se by not hiring more people, but, we had to pay them on the side. We're pushing them into classrooms, which is better for students, better for children, but something has to give. And this whole data piece, we need two people who are essentially district level people, but they would still be teachers, who would be informing and mining all of that data and informing the reading specialists, the math facilitators, who then push it to the teachers because they're in the classrooms with the teachers. So we're missing a link, I guess, is the problem. And we've realized that missing link. And again, Dr. Hibbs and I wouldn't be speaking about this if there wasn't a need. This isn't well, it would be nice to have. This is an absolute need for us. And I don't know if Michael or Carol want to add to anything that I just said.
Yeah, I think simply it's a question of, for example, we're supervisors of curriculum and instruction, and that often gets put aside as a priority because of the amount of data we're trying to analyze and use for instruction. We have a multitude of new programs that are generating an enormous amount of data, but we're not able to put it in a form that gets into the classroom to actually improve instruction. So having this additional layer of a data specialist who's also knowledgeable in the content area and knows what the data means in terms of skills and standards and instruct strategies in the classroom, I think it would be an enormous benefit.
I wonder, someone's question?
No.
I just want to speak a second, and I know it doesn't go directly to the educational piece. It goes more to our parents and we've heard a lot about communications this year.
Mm-hmm.
And I know we don't have somebody watching over it, and I know that's part of the issue. And I know one of the things you asked for was a $25,000 approximate part-time secretary for communications. And I just know the communications been lacking. We've had complaints, and they've been on the ball they've been on target sometimes, sometimes not on target. But there's simply nobody watching our Facebook on that. That's nobody watching.
Well, no, I think you're doing it.
No, my Teresa does a lot. She monitors Facebook. She handles the webpage. Look, yes, there was definitely a lack of there was a void that was created, before. But I think what you asked me in that question, Mr. President, is simply, what do you like if you have to cut it down?
I know
right?
that, and you cut it down.
Yeah,
you did the right thing. But when I'm looking at this, I'm looking at the big picture, and I'm just saying
you could add that one back in. That would help me. All of them would make us better.
I'm just saying it's going to help our public because our public we've been lacking.
Look, every one of these that I put on here before, I wouldn't ever come to you with a, hey, I have a Christmas list. My grandmom used to give me the best catalog and tell me to circle everything, and I think it was secretly just to shut me up in days before winter. But all of these make you infinitely better. I mean, the math facilitators, you don't have anybody working with your at-risk kids in that aspect at the middle schools. The data people, you don't have anybody, dedicated solely to drive instruction with data. As far as technology goes, we put $1.4 million worth of tech into here that you did, and Kim can't do it all by herself. It's not physically possible to manage it. And so all of these are things that would make you infinitely better. So any of these that are added in will make us infinitely better.
Okay, don't we have tech go-tos in every school?
No, you eliminated the go-tos last year.
They're gone.
They're gone, yeah. So we did.
Wait, I could have sworn there were more.
No. They were eliminated last year. 2 years ago? No.
Last year. Yeah. But that isn't what we're talking about. So that would be someone who would fix a printer, would recheck a connection for a Promethean board. Speaking accurately,
we hired another tech.
You hired Adam, and Adam picked up a lot of the pieces for Genesis though, because before you had paid someone really to help you manage Power School. So Adam does do tech work and also manages Genesis. But yes.
Well, we have positions that seem to be just seasonal. Why doesn't the seasonal positions help pick up some of that slack?
Which slack?
What's seasonal?
I don't know what seasonal is. Communications.
What's seasonal?
Who in seasonal?
Registrar is the seasonal position.
Oh, no. That registrar is working constantly. NJ Smart, that collecting all of that information and keeping it updated, et cetera, and stuff, that person works on a regular basis.
Yeah. And this, the concept behind this one is your app's going to go live before the end of the year. That's going to take constant management. Your website takes constant management. Facebook takes constant management. I mean, look, what are other districts doing that we're not doing? Other districts have someone that literally can take a good news story and can get it up on the web. The web would pull, or the RSS feed would get pulled right to the app. It'd be out there and it'd be rolling. So, we had something amazing happen. We had Mrs. Gross from Asher Homes. She had her children, her second grade kids. They wrote over 100 letters to servicemen and collected toiletries. It was awesome. And guess who put that together? This guy. And like, you don't want me doing stuff like that. It's just, and Teresa, like, she works her tail off. She can't make her work anymore. It doesn't, there's something that's you have to realize that something has to give. That was the thought process behind that, is that, look, we're in a digital age. I want the app to be incredible. I want the website to be incredible. We don't put news stories up. To me, that's not okay. We should be doing a better job with that, and that's what that person was. But look, I understand the whole implication behind raising taxes. I fully get it. So look, every one of these makes us better. So if you're saying to me, hey, Eric, add it back in, I think it makes sense. I totally agree that all these things are great.
If I can help you, that $25,000 doesn't make a difference. It's 1.6 with the 325. If you add it and take it to 350, it makes no difference. It's still a 1% tax increase.
Awesome.
You sound like my wife when you roll around those numbers. No offense, Cindy.
I'm a female. We're great at sales
But
shopping.
honey, I saved over here, but if you add up all the things.
All right. Doesn't happen. That happens in my
Okay,
house.
can we go back to one thing? We were talking about benefits earlier. There is a whole tab devoted to benefits, and it's tab 8, that we don't go, but your information is there. And if you look at the second page of it, you'll see the total of $11 million, but we've only budgeted for 9.4 because that's the difference between what the contributions are and what the costs are. You see total costs of almost 11.5 for medical benefits. So, but the detail is there. Now, if you want more detail, what a cost is, I'll give you that, but you've got basically everything here. And because most of you all, with the exception of Joanne and Craig, you've all been through this at least once, so you haven't seen this binder yet. So there's a lot in here that backs up everything that is in tab 11. Now, is it everything? No, but it gives you big highlights and everything, so.
And we don't have to, this is not to decide tonight. This is just so
No.
everybody knows up front where we're headed. And I would think by March 3rd, we need to pretty much know where we are. So if we get the final budget on the 10th, it's the final budget. But Debbie asked me if you could just explain one more time what the assistant supervisor technology is.
Okay. So we have, let's just take it apart. So you have everything from, Chromebooks to tablets to iPads. All right. If you just stick there, there's an enormous amount of work that goes into managing all three of those, from professional development to what I have in my head is parent nights to teach parents how we use Google. Currently, we just don't have the resources to do things like that, and that's something that comes up constantly at our PTA meetings. Can you teach us, those types of questions? So you have those. You have managing all of our softwares as well. So the Study Island implementation, everything that goes with that. Achieve, having these people in classrooms working just with ed tech. So, with 8 buildings, with 2 people dedicated to that, I mean, that's 1 out of 4, which is incredible. Just everything ed tech, and that is something that doesn't stop and keeps coming. I mean, by the day. New apps. You want people. So Kim right now goes to our Google seminar that we do cooperatively with Belmar. Kim will come back and she'll turnkey things. You want that to happen. Kim runs the whole Google the Google turnkey. So Kim, can you take a second, just explain real quickly what that is?
Microphone, Kim, please.
And this is all on Kim's doing.
Good evening. Our Google Turnkey program is funded by.
Do me a favor, take the mic, please, take it out. Thank you, sorry.
Is funded by money through No Child Left Behind. We hired 20 people. What we did was we surveyed all the staff, and we wanted to determine what their needs were with Google, just to see like how they could use the Chromebooks in the classroom. So we got a list of everything that they were interested in. I then, through Google Video, we have been meeting, and we basically put together a list of all the training sessions that we wanted to have. I had the trainers do it in every building, I think except 2, but what we did was we staggered the hours so that when the sessions start, it gives people, say, from the later ending schools, like Morel, it'll give them time to get over there. So each month, we put a calendar out that's available to staff. I actually bought a subscription to Sign Up Genius. It's pretty cool. You have a description of the topic. You then just press a button to sign up. It shows how many people have signed up so far. And we have had a dozen sessions already, very well attended. We're packed at 25 a session. The trainers are doing it in the morning. They're doing it in the afternoon. I'm getting scores of emails saying, I can't wait to have part 2 of Powtoons. Can you run this again? But we're not just limiting it to Google. We're doing things like EDU Canon, which basically will annotate YouTube videos. We've had alternative student response system software, or not software, but online programs that the students can use, just like we have the ActiVotes. The ActiVotes are getting very old. They're very cumbersome. So now what they're doing is they're using online resources to basically, have students respond electronically through their Chromebook. So it's almost like an instant assessment. So it's very successful. We have months, all training all through June, and like I said, every month the calendar goes out. I send it out to the teachers, and they just go right in and sign up.
Thanks, Kim. So,
Who are the trainers?
Teachers. Yeah. So, one of the things that I have in my head, when we do professional development, we did it at the beginning of the year. Google Calendar, I designed the training. We all broke it apart as admin and took pieces of it. To me, that's not an effective use of my time. I need to be at 10,000 feet, not on the ground in certain instances. Repository of PD. Right now, we don't have one, and that's something that we should have. We should have on our back end. We should have the staff login where when you come to Marlboro, look, here's what you got. This is all the tech PD that we've given over the last 2 years. It's all here for you. Go get up to speed. The app committee. Raise your hand if you run the app committee. Yeah, I mean, they literally, Michael, he approves, all the apps that come in. It's not where you want us to be putting our effort. So, two people is what you need to make it happen incredibly.
Quick question, Cindy. If we took those 4 items, which the total is 575.
550.
They added wrong.
Oh, you added wrong. Okay. So 550, and
We're not good in math.
Sorry, the math facility.
Exactly.
Usually I double check it, but I didn't. Okay, so 550. What would the difference be from a tax increase impact standpoint from 550 if we took it down to 325? I don't know if you said that already or not.
I did. It was 1.6 cents.
To what?
To what,
Craig's
though?
asking the difference
You
between.
didn't tell us the 575.
It was 2 cents. It was 2 cents with everything added in.
So
Okay.
2 down to 1.6.
Correct. And that's with the 25 doesn't really matter, so it stays at 1.6.
So really, it's the extra $200,000 that swings that, Sin?
Yes.
That was on the second sheet of the 2 sheets
Yes.
you gave us.
The 2 sheets I gave you, the first one was the new rateable number with what you had as we presented. The second
Gail,
one
you're
was
more
with
than welcome to
its
take the
whole
mic.
500.
Come on.
It was the
50 in there, so.
sheet that you gave us.
So all in, Craig, your question, all in.
It's 2
if-
cents.
With the whole budget coming forward, if we approved every single thing every week up to the 3rd, it's 2 cents.
Can you talk about what that dollar is between 2 cents and 1.6?
Okay. Yeah, I can. Okay.
using, and I have to tell you, I don't know what an average price home is right now. The last time I knew it was $450. So if you figured out it was about $88 a year a person would be paying on the full freight versus about 70, 74, 75.
What average home are you using?
450.
So you're talking $14. So to put that in perspective, it's $14 the average person, and you would put 2 extra staff members to work with your at-risk kids at your middle schools.
That's not just for this, that's for total budget.
That's if we accept
No,
everything in the budget.
that's- Yes.
Correct.
So there might be somewhere we could save and add.
Could be.
That's a little over $1 a month.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so now we can work forward into the numbers that we
Okay,
have.
I have something.
Yes, go ahead.
Before we go into curriculum.
Sure.
Before we go into
We're
curriculum.
going to special services first. Okay.
Oh, we're doing special services. Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So- No, I got the floor.
Yeah, I didn't
first.
see that. I'm
raised my
sorry.
hand.
Sorry, Bon.
Okay, so I got the floor first.
Good
Okay,
Lord.
so after I looked at everything we have, and I didn't look at the book yet, and before we start special services
got the
and
book
curriculum.
tonight, so.
I know, because I said it, we didn't look at the book yet, because I just got it tonight. Here's what I have to say, and that was when we were looking at 5.7 cents. I was I'm still disappointed. We've been looking at putting kindergarten in, and I feel that the board has been kind of chasing its own tail the last year. Kind of no fault of its own and no fault of anybody else's. We've been trying to get a referendum out. We've been looking at doing stick-built. We've been, conventional building. We've been trying to look at modular. We're not making any headway. And I'm disappointed that here comes September. We're in February now, and we still don't have kindergarten. We're looking at a budget that does not include kindergarten. I feel that it's hurting Marlboro because now we're the only school district out of the sending districts for Freehold Regional that does not have kindergarten. And every time we discuss, whether it be a calendar, whether it be something else, whether it be curriculum, we discuss how we fit into the sending districts. And this is where we don't fit into the sending districts. And now, are we hurting our own properties? I kind of think we might be, because is it anecdotal to say if I put my house on the market today and a young couple comes in to look at my house, which could be considered a starter home, and they have young children, maybe starting kindergarten, and they could buy in Manalapan or Freehold Township, which is very similar to Marlboro. Would they buy my house, or would they go into Manalapan or Freehold Township and buy the same house? And it's, a similar house. It's 3,000 square feet, same price. So I think we might be hurting our own property values at one point. And I think this board has to look at other means. And if that means putting kindergarten and looking seriously into putting kindergarten into the 1 through 5s and revamping and asking Dr. Hibbs to look at other means seriously and not stop looking at building, but seriously getting kindergarten going for September and looking at other means to bring a referendum to bear maybe next year, but getting kindergarten started for September, then we have to do it. And including that in the budget and going to the state if we have to for a cap waiver, then let's do that. And we have to do something because we're not the same now as the sending districts for Freehold Regional. And to keep saying, well, we have to do a calendar the same, and we have to do this the same, and we have to be like Freehold, the rest of the sending districts, we're not. And we're shooting ourselves in the foot on many levels. So I think this board has to engage Dr. Hibbs in some other hard conversations at the same time we're doing this budget, because we're asking him to, and Dr. Hibbs is saying to us, we have to make ourselves better, we have to make ourselves more competitive, we have to bring our test scores up, we have to do this, we have to do that, and he constantly is telling us, this, Rocco, I think his name is, in Township, what is the superintendent? Rocco in Township is doing this.
Oh, Ross.
Ross
Yep.
in Township is doing X, Y, and Z, and we have to be better like them. And he's constantly telling us about other districts and what their school districts in the Freehold Regional, the K to 8. And we want to be competitive like they are, and we're hurting our own children. So I think we really need to start looking at some other things that bring kindergarten in September here, and I think that we are tenacious as a board. I think Dr. Hibbs is tenacious. I think he can do it. That's why we hired him. He's young, energetic, and I think he can get this done if we task him to do it, and I think there are ways to do it. So I've said my piece, and that's it.
Okay, thanks, Bonnie. John?
Cindy, I know it's in this book, in this pile of information. Transportation for special services. What does that equate to? Oh, I thought you'd have it on the top of you, right over the top.
No, because it's in several lines. Because it's what we do. Are you talking just the out-of-district students?
I'm
or-
talking anything as it relates to, because it's not in this budget, but it impacts the bottom line. I'm just trying to.
Okay, if you give me 1 minute, I'll tell you.
And it doesn't have to be to the.
What?
Get me in the right
What?
ballpark.
You did. Yeah, I'll say something.
Almost $1.6 million.
1.6 in transportation. Thank you.
But there's real, I mean, that's a high number. Is there any way to do anything about?
No,
Yeah,
I just wanted that
out there?
out there.
Gotcha.
So people have, because I was totally bowled over last year and the year before with
For the 38 students.
with the amount of money that's spent.
Somebody asked.
That's more than half your budget, just in transportation, away from his budget.
Well, that's why it was, first of all, the number I gave you is for special ed students. That's not just the out-of-district placements.
So that's everybody.
That's everybody, okay? But we have to
So
have.
that's in district and out of district.
Correct,
special ed.
but it's for special ed drivers, it's for attendants, it's for, our out-of-districts cost us almost $1 million. So, in transportation, but it's important to get that number out there for people to understand the fact that we get no additional funding for that. Because what you get is only for educating the child, not to get them there.
Yep. Right. I just want to clarify, just, from Bonnie's comments. When we embarked on this together, we looked at a whole lot of things. Can you move fifth to the middle school? You can't fit them. Can you reconfigure, everything how it would work? Can you squeeze them into where they are? The only real option, and it's just going to be, in my opinion, just troubling, is really you would really essentially, you keep Abbott as some form of, either pre-K special ed or pre-K or self-contained classes, and then try and really take all of your existing 1 through 5s, and really what you would do is you'd have to divide out the number that we need, roughly, Sin, how many? 28. So you'd have to really, you would take your class size and you would just boom.
And wouldn't you also have to
We don't
redistrict?
need 28 right now.
Wouldn't you also have to redistrict kids?
You don't now, that's what.
I don't know. Well, I mean, could you? Sure,
but-
you could always look at that, but I don't know. That's
I don't
gonna-
wanna look at that. No, we
Yeah,
don't wanna look
but I don't think it's going to get you the win that you want, because the problem is
I don't wanna look
the
at that.
redefining
I was
of
afraid you
lines.
would have to do
Oh,
that.
No.
redistricting.
Yes. I'm looking. I saw your face. Yes.
No, I don't wanna
but
do that.
I don't think it gets you the win that you want. And at the end of the day, to me, your class sizes are gonna they're gonna go through the roof, and I don't know how they couldn't.
When you said.
But to Bonnie's point, we're trying to listen, I hear where you're coming from, chasing detail. I don't exactly feel that way. I feel that we've tried to do the best and get as much information to make an informed decision. It's been taking a long time, I'm not going to argue with on that, because you're right. But if we're going to explore it, then everything has to be explored.
Well, he told us in the beginning, we asked him, he said,
It
would
can't
not
be done.
recommend, it shouldn't be done. And do we want to go to,
Because at this point, my feeling on it, I mean,
Oh, I don't know, classrooms, you're feeling
I
like-
choke on that 275 a square foot from a construction standpoint, but I choked even more when the prefabs were up there also. And so what do you do?
It was more.
It was up, it was 300, which I find incredible. But you say you don't want to redistrict. I don't want to redistrict either, but what are we saying? Let's just go out for a referendum and do it now?
well, you go out for referendum, John, I have no problem looking at Bonnie's thing if a referendum failed, because I don't want to increase our class size.
So you wouldn't look at that until the referendum failed?
I don't know why we don't look at that part.
Because it's going to increase the class sizes, that's.
All right, Michael, because what you're saying in effect is, we know it's going to fail.
I don't know it's going to fail,
Time
but
out.
then-
Before we started talking about construction, Dr. Hibbs, didn't you come to us and say,
There was like 9 available
the
classrooms in the
cafeteria went
entire
more, the
district.
gym space
and then you
went
also
Yeah.
mentioned regulations at kindergartens.
Well, this is why we didn't flush this exact scenario, is because the board historically has you have board approved class size ranges / limits that we adhere to. This is going to obliterate them. You are going to take. I
It
do.
makes Marlboro
I
not
do.
Marlboro.
You are
We
totally
pride
going to
ourselves
take
in this.
your 1, 2, and 3 classrooms, and I will give you a specific number on what it could look like, but if I had a ballpark, you're looking at 28, 29, and probably going over 30. You got 30 rooms. 28 rooms, 25 rooms, whatever that specific number is, you can't physically squeeze that. The only way to do it is to take your existing kids and say, all right, here's my end number is X, 500 in a building, divided out by the number of classrooms gives you your class sizes. You're going to take X out of that pot, and then you're going to have it over here. So there's no way your class size does not go up. There's just no way. And look, and that's the reason why we really didn't do that, is because we pride ourselves, and we have a lot to be proud of here. We really do. And that's one of them. Kindergarten, 19 to 23 is where we stick, and we live there. And we monitor that, religiously. Mr. Vaughn, every day all summer is in my office. We're at here, we're at this, we're looking at this, we're going to have to add a section at Asher's Fourth, because we try to really keep it at a livable number. Look,
why give in at this point and say lower our expectations, lower our educational levels, increase our class sizes? We've gone this far. If the referendum fails and we decide there's no other way to do it, we have to
well, that's
raise class
a
sizes as a
separate
board.
discussion.
That's another discussion.
I don't
But-
love if-thens anyway. I think that's a dangerous slope to be
either.
at. But look, you have started on this journey towards full day K. I think whatever the fruition of that is, you get to it,
Yeah.
and then you put it out. And then if we know we're going out in September, then I have plenty of parents that have voiced that they'll be out there. They'll be happy to knock on doors. We can figure out the plan. You got to see where it goes. It's a lot like Park, and I'm not disagreeing or agreeing. You have to let Park come, and let's see what data comes out of it, and see how we do it to make an informed decision about it. This is the exact same concept. how do you know how it's going to go? Is it going to go up? It's going to go down? I don't know the answer. I mean, you're going after a unilateral building of kindergarten. It could either go very well or not very well. But either way, it's got to go some way. And I don't think class size is hitting, upwards of 30. But I'll be happy to sit down with numbers. And
Your recommendation is no, though.
Yeah, I mean, unless I sat down with it and class numbers were 23, but I just don't physically, mathematically know how that's possible.
Wow, we're going to take out his recommendation on this. We haven't taken his recommendation on, let me think, transportation and quite a few other things.
Okay, that's, okay. Continue with the budget. Special services.
I think Cindy or Mrs. Burnley covered it. If there's any questions, I know Mrs. Matos, you might have had a question.
Cindy did cover a lot. I guess you had mentioned nursing.
So they could
Yes.
choose what they would
Okay.
take recommendations on.
Would you like an excellent?
It's increased.
Oh, yes.
But we're still looking to hire. Is that why there's an increase listed?
No, because it's an anticipation of, because.
An anticipation of new hires.
Of a child needing.
Of a child needing.
Yes,
Okay.
because what we're finding is kids that are coming into the district are more medically fragile. And so therefore, I will tell you, 2 years ago, we never would have had this discussion. But now, all of a sudden, it was like, okay, they need to ride the bus. Then they need to be in an ambulance. We've got one child that gets transported by an ambulance every day, to and from school every day with a nurse. Now we have to have the nurse in with him at all times. So it just keeps escalating with this. And I don't want to be, I believe the need's going to be there.
The summer, the curriculum writing is always separate than the regular curriculum writing?
Yeah, because it's special services.
And it's changed because of our new...
Robert can talk about that.
Lynn, you want to take it?
Assessment.
Typically, what I do is I piggyback off of curriculum. So whatever they're doing, I'm doing as well. 'Cause we're modifying whatever curriculum's doing to meet the needs of the special services students.
Testing material?
That is a new WISC version coming out, and you have to get it because it's renormed every 7-8 years. You're not allowed to.
So we're not looking at that next year?
We're buying it for September.
We're not looking at it the following year, or is that something you
We're
purchase
looking at
and
it.
hold?
It's
Or
a
is
one-time
that something-
purchase, Robert, or is it
A
a...
one-time purchase that we're going to buy in July.
Thank you.
The equipment is student-driven, just so you know.
Okay.
Anyone else? Questions, comments on special services? Okay, thank you very much,
so
Robert.
much.
Linda, appreciate it.
Robert and Linda, thank you so much.
Curriculum, 2015-16 budget.
Also, just Craig and Joanne, what was sent home to you over the weekend, your nice color pages are in your book.
These?
They're already,
It's in here.
yeah.
Good evening again, everybody. Just to give you an overview, you're looking at close to 50 separate account numbers. The construct of the budget has been put together with purpose, fiscal responsibility, and a need to effectively administer our district curricula in all disciplines. You have a brief summary here on this
25.
first page. The curriculum department developed this budget, the 2015-16 budget, to promote the following goals: to provide support and resources for the Common Core state standards, including more specifically an online text resource that Ms. Labuza will speak to as we talk about some of the details of our budget line items, as well as an online program called Link It, which will enable us to, it's an online program that enables us to house and analyze data on all kinds of data. Again, I know we talked about data before. This would be another program that is utilized to analyze data for various assessments. We can do item analysis based on question types, etc. Develop a student-centered 21st century environment in all schools and all grade levels. We also need to revise units of study and pacing guides in both ELA and math. Per state mandates under the New Jersey Core Curriculum Content State Standards, the current 2009 version there are updates that need to take place, which I know this sounds odd, but they will be updated to the 2014 standards. It's odd because we're in 15. So they're always a little bit behind, but they're going to move from 2009 to 2014 to bring us current. We also continue to align the G&T units of study to the Common Core State Standards while providing 21st century applications. Of course, supporting the district's professional development needs. We also need to maintain our current online subscriptions and continue to support, as Dr. Hibbs said, with our big investment in technology and mobile device initiative. We continue to support that and our plans for next year. If you would allow me just to go through some of the larger items that we saw some increases in, and I'll pass the microphone to the appropriate supervisor to embellish a little bit more. You'll see in contracted services, I think we basically covered that one, that 33% increase. We're talking about the Genesis staff management piece. I will get back to you on the difference between what we spent on Teachscape versus Genesis. Another big item here, we're talking about, again, of course, the percentages look high. Sometimes the dollar amount isn't as great. But the guidance summer work, that's for the elementary guidance counselors. We typically have paid them for 3 days over the summer in terms of coming in for extra time beyond their contractual hours. Those hours are prorated based on each counselor's salary. What they do is they assist the building principal and building vice principal with placement, new student orientation, all of those things they do to get ready for students in September. Principals came to us and unanimously said we need at least 2 more days. So instead of the 3 days which we budgeted for last year and we used, they needed an additional 2 days. So that's why that increase is there. Online subscriptions, I'll let Ms. Labuza speak about the eScience program that we're currently piloting with great success. And Mr. Bowman will talk about the collections resource.
Good evening. Currently, we are piloting eScience at Memorial Middle School in grades 6, 7, and 8. And it's just been a wonderful experience. Our textbooks are approaching 10 years old, and they're currently out of date. eScience is a differentiated online living document. So while it's a textbook, it's constantly updated and changing to reflect anything that goes on within the science field. What's wonderful about it is it speaks to Achieve. So the students will receive the information at their appropriate Lexile level. The Lexile level is indicative of the words surrounding the science words, because if you throw a word like endoplasmic reticulum into a sentence, you're going to drive the Lexile level up. But the surrounding vocabulary is appropriate to the child's Lexile level. So it's already differentiated for the students. The program is aligned to the next generation science standards. It's inquiry-based. It provides both formative and summative assessment. It's infusing technology, and the students would be using their Chromebooks and going online in order to gain the information. It's partnership with National Geographic, so the images are very rich and great for the students. What's nice also is the students will have access to all 3 books at one time. Right now in 6th grade, they have an earth science textbook. In 7th grade, they have a life science textbook. In 8th grade, they have a physical science textbook. 8th grade, they take the NJS science. They come begging and running to their 6th and 7th grade teachers, can we borrow a book? You know, we want to study. They would have access to all 3 books, all 3 years. They would have all this knowledge available to them. In terms of park readiness, there are links to nonfiction articles. There are online tools and assessments. There's highlighter. There's drag and drop. And as I said, since it's a living document, it's constantly updated to reflect what is occurring currently. And our students are, it's unacceptable, their life is online. It's unacceptable for them to read things that are outdated and say, oh, Pluto's still a planet, or is it an exoplanet? And how many domains do we have? And this prevents any of that from occurring. There's also differentiated learning experiences within the book itself. It provides text-to-speech for those of our children who need that. They can highlight and annotate and take notes right online. There are engaging videos, there's investigations, there's labs, STEM connections, cross-curricular connections, and one of our teachers sent out a Google survey to her class, and students reported that they found it interactive, convenient, because they can annotate right within it, the program, current, and easy to read. There's critical thinking and application skills. And while there is a cost associated with this, if you were to look at a traditional textbook, at let's say $150 a book, times the number of students, that would be a $300,000 investment. And the minute it's published, it's out of date. Where this subscription is a yearly basis in terms of our commitment to the program. And the pilot has been extremely successful. The teachers that have been doing it are happy with the information. The students are comfortable with learning the information in this manner. And I just believe that it would be the correct direction for our district to go in terms of educating our children in science. Any questions?
I have a question. What do you do for students who have 504s and IEPs where they need a textbook, where online doesn't work for them?
Well, there's 2 different options. We still would have the old books in place, but also anything can be printed.
Okay, but
So-
you said that you have all 3 textbooks online, so you'd have all 3 of those.
The content.
The content can be-
for
yeah.
all 3, so
Mhm.
you would be able to print out
Anything.
all 3 of those textbooks when they come to 8th grade and they need to. So you'd be able to.
Yep, you could do it. We could convert anything from digital to print.
Laura,
The child needs
when you
to
say
print it.
textbook, it's really the content that you're talking
Right.
about. So all 3 of the content of those textbooks would be available online, all of which could be printed for anyone that would need it. So
Right.
anybody that would have a specific need, we would be able to meet that still, correct?
Correct.
Yes. And the nice part about that is, Ms. Lubuza did mention, it does speak to Achieve 3000 because it's essentially the same company. So when students take level set, or when they advance on through their Lexile level throughout the year, the text is presented at that level.
Mhm. Which will help those students, so they'll get the text at the level that's appropriate. Yes.
Being that it's aligned with Achieve, will we be looking at this to be used as a tool or another assessment?
No, it's not. No, I totally understand what you're saying. It's not like Achieving where it's articles and assessment. And think of it as an online textbook, but instead of just being a scanned book that's online and is not interactive, it's interactive, it's updated, but it is, if you printed it, it would read like a book. So it has...
So it's not an 8-question Achieve?
No, not at all. It's a wealth of information. It's all the science content, everything that the students would need to know.
Now, there's a $50,000 difference on that line item. Is that all from e-science? or-
No, there's an additional piece called collections, and Mr. Bowman will speak about that.
Okay. Is that for all our buildings, or is that just for the 2 middle schools?
It's for the 2 middle schools for grades 6 through 8. eScience is available for grades 6 through 8 currently. Sure.
So when it's no longer a pilot program, we're not going to have science books at $125 a piece for how many books?
Right.
But we're going to have a yearly cost. What is that yearly cost going to be? We're going to have a yearly subscription to
Yeah.
keep
Right.
Close to 20,000 per school.
Right.
20. So it's a.
It's 40.
So it's $60,000 a year now.
40.
How many?
40.
40.
Oh, I'm sorry.
A little less than 40.
Sorry.
It's one is 17 and one is.
And
So it's $40,000 a year. How many
Right.
books are we getting rid of? We're getting rid of.
We're not getting rid of any books.
Well,
But
they're going to go on a shelf someplace, I would assume. This is going to take over for the books.
Right. But a traditional book would cost, what I calculate, about $300,000.
I'm just trying to get the return on.
Oh, on
return
the.
on investment
Mhm.
in the sense of, okay, we're going to lay out $40,000 a year. You got to throw a penalty flag and say, but wait a minute, we would have spent $300 to buy all the books.
Yep. And at some point, those books would be
obsolete.
No, I like the whole concept. I like, the
Mhm.
living, breathing. The only thing that scares me is this, the company, what happens when when and if, God forbid, they go away. And you've seen that happen, Michael. in different
Well,
companies.
in terms of, I can't speak to Achieve 3000 and their, ability or inability to, disappear at any given time, but.
We'd have to pony up for the $300,000 and get books.
Yeah, I mean, using that logic, we,
Find another company.
Achieve 3000, just to put this in perspective, and, this is public, everyone knows, but Achieve 3000 is $165,000 a year. So.
Probably shouldn't have said that tonight. Okay.
They see it.
For all the buildings.
That's for all the
That's
schools.
for all the buildings, correct?
Correct.
Teasing. Students can log in from home.
Students can log in from home, log in at school, log in at their friend's house, wherever they have internet access.
Can go on Chromebooks.
Yep.
Yes.
And,
I knew those answers.
Yeah, we just made an assumption.
and I have copies of more literature, but I'm not, only if you want it, because I know you have so many things that you need to read tonight. But it just gives a breakdown of it if you're interested. Any other questions or anything I could do to help
Is
you?
there ever a guest log on, the board members can see what this online stuff looks like?
I can get you one, sure.
I would like to go.
Absolutely.
We can get you anything you want for that kind of stuff. We can always make sure you have
Yep.
whatever you want.
It's coming out of your board.
There you go. Come on,
Dr. Pay.
come on my salaries tonight.
Okay. I'll get that to you tonight. Okay.
Nice job, Lorraine.
Great. Thank you.
You want to see him?
You want the info?
Yeah.
Thank you, Lorraine.
Is this one for everybody? I got it.
Sir.
So,
I'm sorry,
yeah.
Mr. Bowman, but we're not purchasing any more books, I'm going to assume, for this. This is, you're done on books, now we go.
Well,
You mean for
except
science?
for Mrs. Vecchio.
Yeah.
Science.
Yeah, science.
That's all I want to know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And if you didn't do that, how long would the books that you have last? Like, how long would they be?
Like 100.
They're already gone?
They've exceeded their life expectancy.
Okay. Just trying to do a quick ROI here, that's all.
Little still a plan.
If you put it into perspective, you say, let's say you keep a textbook for 5 years, right? So that's $200,000 over 5 years. It's still less than our $300,000 investment on a new textbook.
I'm just, my Wall Street days are kicking in, Mike. I got those numbers in my head, I'm sorry.
I'm with you.
That's what colleges are doing
It's
now,
just
too.
an example.
They don't reduce your tuition rates, but they're reducing their costs.
They increase technology fees.
Exactly. I'm sorry, Mr. Bowman.
So, Collections is a new program from Houghton Mifflin Harcourt that I would like to have teachers in the middle schools pilot. Basically, the name Collections comes from the fact that it's collected multiple resources that reflect the shifts in the Common Core. So basically grouped thematically and by strategy. incorporating reading, writing, speaking, and listening. It'll have an anchor text, either fiction or nonfiction, and then ancillary texts, both fiction and nonfiction, poetry, and links to video clips approved and appropriate for the grade level from A&E Biography and the History Channel. So it looks like a very promising resource. I'm excited about it. 1 or 2 middle school teachers discovered it on their own and mentioned it to me after I found it. So I would really appreciate teacher feedback from 2 classes in ELA in each middle school to see if it's something we should pursue. I've discovered that Manalapan is already implementing it in their middle school.
What's it called again?
Collections, that's the name of it.
And that's 10? Is that the other 10?
That would be
It's
13.2 for both middle schools, 13,200.
$4,400 per grade level for both schools.
Any other questions on it? Thank you, sir.
Yeah, it's,
Good.
I just want to ask one question on this. Since we have, is this going to be utilized the same way as counterpart as far as being taken home and?
When you say its counterpart, Achieve 3,000 or?
No.
Are we
No,
gonna
right? I
go
mean, it's not
to
the
jumping
it's not this it's not it's not the same as
No.
Achieve.
No, it's completely,
Yeah. It's a resource.
it's
We're just going to use this as a resource?
Correct.
That's what you said?
as a resource. It's, think of it as your book, but now your book is online, but it is living instead of just being a stagnant document.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure
Collecting dust.
That's all we're going to be using it for.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
No
not,
more.
not for, I mean, they have assessment components and online tests to go with each unit the same way you would take a written test. So that could be an option in terms of teachers can use that, but it's not the same questions of Achieve in terms of, it's not ELA based, it's testing science content knowledge. They do have an assessment component, just like any textbook gives the teachers their pre-made tests. If that's what you're asking. But it's not the same as Achieve at all.
I just when I was looking through this, I saw where it says sample review activity, drag and drop.
Right.
And stuff, so I wanted to see what.
Right, and currently, for example, in, I know Mrs. McFarland's class, what she'll do before children take a test, she'll have them do the review test on the eScience program online as a practice, and then they take her written test right now. So, again, it's...
She's doing.
That she's doing. Mhm.
I have a question. This is for the 6th grade to 8th grade?
Correct.
For all the middle school?
For both middle schools, yes.
Mr. Bowman, the collections, I guess is it an additional resource to our current textbooks and online resources that the children are already using in ELA?
It would be. I mean, basically, the ELA teachers are attempting to create this type of material. They have to choose the text that they're using, find a video clip that fits with it, find a poem that's linked then, and creating this collection of material that is reflecting the Common Core's multiple sources to synthesize information from. Collections has done that already. The students would have a purely online component, and the teacher would have, a teacher's edition, a print copy, but the students would use it online.
So I had 2 questions that came to my head about it, is that how does this fit into our Common Core curriculum and our Lexile levels that are now so individualized with our children, and we're trying to individualize every child's learning by using tech, so.
Okay, there should be differentiation in level of text. I'm going to be pursuing this with their professional development. There should be different levels of text available. And I'm sorry, your other question?
Common Core.
Oh, yeah, well, it's totally Common Core aligned. and reflects the Common Core shifts. So
The
it would be
Lexile-
another
the-
resource for the teacher.
Sorry. The Lexile scares me a bit because I know if you use, Michael and I had this conversation a couple of years ago. I know when you use different, what would you call them? Companies, like Achieve's level is not the same as another Lexile level. It should be similar, but sometimes they aren't. And, that's why I like the eScience, because they are linked into or aligned into Achieve, because at least we know that that is that child's exact Lexile level.
Well, remember, Lexile levels shouldn't necessarily deviate from each other. Metametrics is the company that produces Lexile levels. So where you will see a deviation is if you're using Fontes and Pinnell versus Learning A to Z has their own levels, DRA.
This fits in our...
Well, Michael, as he said, he's going to ensure that there are different levels of differentiation based on Lexile. Being that it's Common Core aligned, we can certainly presume that it is, but we'll certainly look into that for you and make sure that it does align with Lexile level, so we know that we can present material to students in accordance with what we're doing with Achieve 3000 and now eScience.
So since we're bringing these, or want to bring newer subscriptions in and try to stay with the times like we're saying, can we reevaluate things like Study Island?
Well, Study Island does have its place as well. They have done a really good job in park preparedness, and again, you view Study Island as preparation, right, for grade level assessment. They have come a long way and have responded with that. So, you need to look at each program as your goal, right? What is your goal with Study Island? Is your goal preparation for the new age assessments? Yes, that's essentially what it does. Collections really is more on the instructional side and aligning with synthesis of multiple text and the delivery of how the text is or presented to a student by way of a poem, video, informational piece, literary piece. What Collections does is it puts together a nice package for teachers, so they have a unified way of meeting the shifts in the Common Core state standards in terms of what they need to be doing for teaching. We hear oftentimes, sometimes at PTA meetings, sometimes public session here, that our teachers need more assistance or more PD in aligning their daily instructions to what they're seeing at the end game, let's say, be it a common assessment or just the park or any other assessment. And this is a way to facilitate that, to ensure that they have a consistent way that they're meeting the shifts of the Common Core. It's almost indirect PD for them and puts a nice package together.
Since I brought up Study Island, can I say something about Study Island? Since it's on online subscriptions? Do you mind?
No.
Because it's personal opinion along with other parents, and I'm sure you've heard it actually at the meetings. But Study Island is great towards the goal that you're going at, but it wastes a lot of the children's time because they can reach a 95 and drop down to an 89 like this with just one or two questions wrong, and then they have to repeat questions, sometimes 25, to go up, right? You could say, just to go up 3% of a change, and no child is going to bring something home like Study Island. You have a week to do it, yes. Do you really need to waste because you made one error? That's why I'm saying it really needs to be reevaluated with time. The children do have a lot to do, I agree, and they're working very hard on the assessments and everything else that is happening, and it's all wonderful with these new programs and online subscriptions that we have. But if we are doing something that's going to hurt them at home as far as time is concerned, I really, truly am asking you to reevaluate Study Island.
I just want to add one more thing to that. Okay. You're talking about higher levels with Study Island.
I just want my hand.
This only takes a second, sorry. With Study Island, if you have a child, you need to get your blue ribbon at 80%. That child gets a 60%. That child needs to get 100 numerous times in order to bring it up.
A few percent.
Just to bring it up to that 80%. That child can do it 7-8 times in order to bring it up.
7-8 times, meaning 25 questions each.
So we need, so maybe that's something you could look into.
We can certainly have a discussion on how it's being utilized. I don't support pulling it out of our program because it does provide, we would create a hole. But we could certainly have discussions on an administrative level on what the requirements are coming out of specific classrooms or buildings. We could look at that.
Thank you.
Bonnie?
I just read this whole brochure, this whole thing that you gave us. This is a sister program to Achieve 3000.
It's
a sister program because it
it's
says it right
linked. Okay, but I want to explain to you. It's linked to Achieve 3000, but it's a completely different program. Achieve 3000 has a specific goal in terms of increasing Lexile level. This is a textbook. Okay, it's an online. And when I give you a log on, you'll be able to see it.
This is a textbook, but this is a sister program to Achieve 3000.
It speaks to Achieve 3000 so that the students can get the textbook at their specific Lexile level.
Right, and it has 5 different levels.
Right.
It's differentiated at 5 different level sets, and it changes on a monthly basis depending on their Lexile level.
Right.
Okay, so I wasn't wrong from that point of view.
It's related, but when you say, I don't want you to think it's the same objective as Achieve. Achieve's objective.
Well, it isn't, because it is geared to their Lexile level.
But it's giving them.
But it's not measuring your.
It's not measuring it. It's giving them the information at a level they can understand and read.
That I get, but it is a sister program.
It's a subsidiary of Achieve, yes, absolutely, but it's not the same
It is
type.
a textbook.
Right,
It is a textbook.
of program.
But I also want us to be very well aware of the fact that, yes, it is a textbook, but we should also be very careful, because I know, I want us to be aware of the fact that we'll probably have parents complaining about this, because for the same reason that we have parents complaining about Park, we're going to have parents complaining about this. Because as I'm reading this, and I'm not against this, I want to put this right out there.
Right.
I am totally not against this. But we're going to have parents complaining about this for exactly the same reasons. We have pop-up vocabulary, we have digital notebooks, we have highlighting, we have scrolling, we have everything that is in the Park testing, and everything that they're complaining about with part of taking the online testing is incorporated in this. And so be very well aware of that. The digital notebooks, all of that is in this. So in reading this,
So if it supports the park. And
It supports the park.
yes.
Park, I'm going to support the park, park's the park way of learning, maybe.
Yeah.
you're
Right,
saying.
but
Park's the measure.
I'm not against this.
I didn't say what.
I'm just
Thank you.
saying that for all the highlighting tool, the drag and drop, the online assessments that some of the teachers are using as pre-tests,
Right.
I'm just saying to you, just be aware that everything that parents are balking about the Park tests, this is it. So we should all be aware of that.
Well, I don't know if it's exactly it.
They're not barking about.
Yeah.
I think, a lot of,
A lot of them are.
there are features on, you could argue that Microsoft Word has highlighting on it as well.
Yeah.
I'm
Right.
not-
Supporting
but-
the tools.
Yes.
Yeah.
The operational features of Park,
Because now they're using it.
I don't think is why parents are,
I've heard a
some
lot of
parents are
parents
upset.
complaining about that part of it also, that
What-
they are very upset about the test being done on,
Well, in order for us to adhere to the next generation science standards and the 21st century, it's inevitable.
Why
that-
would you want your kids to learn something halfway one way and then give them another thing and say, now you're going to learn
Go
it a
back
different
old
way?
school.
I'm not,
And I'm not
listen,
saying-
I've heard people complaining about the mouse, and I was like, kids are using that constantly. They do those little ads.
It's
like
a reality
nothing.
of where we are.
Where we are.
I'm just telling you.
Right, because even if you look at, if you speak to current college students, their books are online, their notebooks are online. They're not highlighting old books and writing notes the way we all did,
Weren't
so.
around where I fought Mrs. Green about buying books. I don't want books for it.
Okay.
This is what I want.
So that, but we just have to educate everybody in terms of
Don't be
why
surprised.
we think this is good for their
Wait,
children.
Joanne had a hand.
Yeah, I have a question here. So far, we have the tool to help assist for the student to improve their test, score or test capability. So far, we have achieved 3,000, pretty much improved the Excel, right? And this is a similar tool, or is it in the additional, only focus on science?
No, it's not geared for improving Lexile level. This is a content, it's an online resource for all of the science content and all the standards that the children are required to learn from 6th through 8th grade.
Use similarly as a textbook would have been.
Similarly as, exactly.
High school, okay. So to basically help a student prepare for the park, right, for this?
No, this is so that the students learn the content. In lieu of having a hard copy textbook, they would have an online interactive textbook with additional resources embedded and available in that textbook, as well as have a textbook that is given to them at their reading Lexile level.
And let's remember that next year, all things falling into place, the Chromebook should be going home.
Okay.
So the textbook goes back and forth without going into
Well, it's going
backpack.
to fall into place, sir.
Okay, this is high school, okay, okay.
This is a textbook on steroids.
Got
Is what it is.
That's great, yeah.
No, it really is.
And
It-
it's $260,000
And it should help their reading, and it should help them
Well,
take
it's
park
tied
tests.
into Achieve in a sense, so.
It should help everything.
Yeah, it's a great resource.
Because we heard Robert Klein say that it should be taught, a reading should be taught cross-curricular anyway. And we know that it should be taught cross-curricular. So this really should help the reading level, and it should help park testing. So,
You don't have a lot of parents complain about Achieve 3000, do you?
we
No.
passed it on.
This year?
No.
No,
This-
there was, last
No,
year
I-
it was.
listen, I've been down many roads with you too, but I'm asking about this year in particular.
No.
That's all
I
kind of.
mean, I think that, no, we moved around the bucket last year of where Achieve was, which parents had some great points, which would be, if Johnny takes a quiz and his Lexile level's here, and Sally takes a quiz and she's here, and they each are a grade, it shouldn't be a ridiculous amount of their average, which we heard, but no, the answer is no.
If anything, it should be very helpful. One would think it would be exceptionally helpful, and in this case, being married, well, I don't know if married to it, but synced into it should make it much more beneficial for a kid to open it up.
Let's go.
The only,
Moving on.
one concern,
100%.
right, for me, I have two children. How much time do you want to give our kids to stay in the computer time? That's for my as being mom.
to buy books.
When we give to when I go to work, right? I say, how much time do you need for this? Achieve 3,000 Star Island, all the time. So okay, for 1 hour, 2 hours. So basically, I'm thinking to maybe like my kids sitting computer do her homework all the time, maybe 2 hours, plus she maybe in the sneaker time doing some other game or online something, That's my concern, too much computer staying on the things. We pretty much we have somehow in the between, Otherwise, the kids is at that age in the middle school, right? We somehow we had a certain time, how much time we allow them to sit in the computer. So the 2 hours each day for the computer, for each student to do their homework, do all the software things. Do you think, Doctor? I'm not sure. I'm being the mom to ask this type of question.
Okay. I think that, well, every grade level has specific homework requirements.
Yeah.
I think that what you can't lose sight of here is that this is really going to function as a textbook, but there's two facets to that. There's the in-school and the out-of-school. So what that means is that in classrooms, teachers will be using this resource, but children will also have the same resource at home. So whether or not they were reading on, a computer at home, or whether or not they're reading out of a book, it's still reading. correct?
And at the end of the day,
You mean-
you and I had to go to a library and take out multiple books, get multiple information, and try to find a decent picture. The only thing that scares me today is the kids when they hit a button. Sometimes what the world it brings them into is scary, and that's why my children have to do. I have the computers on the first floor in an office where I have line
Yeah.
of sight, but they live, eat, and breathe on a computer.
Yeah.
And I watch my daughter who's 28 years old, and I'm sure your kids. That's all they do is it's computers, and if they're not ready for it, college, high school and college, that's it. They are on computers. Period. The end.
That's what.
They got the computer going, and they got the phone going. Mine's got the iPad.
No, I tell him he's got to take the earbuds out.
They don't
Let's
got
go.
earphones. I'm just talking about.
Well, they text themselves.
Yeah.
But the thing, right, I ask mom, how much, I ask them, how much time do you need to stay on computer? That's why my just not, I mean, for I'm computers all the every day, that's for myself, for my
Right.
job purpose. How much time do we prepare for our kids for the 20th century, or the, next 10 years, for their advanced higher education, or for their lifetime? When the things, it's a computer, when we enable, we do the click things, it's simply click, it's a very simple, fun way to do it. But the logical thinking, how the concept put into a children's mind, that's a different story, right? It's not really computers per se, right? So far we do. There's not much computer, we just click, drag and click for the computer things, right, so far. But the thing, how do we teach our kids for the, for next century, say 10 years later for their life, how the concept, all the different, that's more important than computer technology. Per se, you should go to achieve 3,000. How much computer do we have? It's logical thinking how to improve the reading skill, right, for the achieve 3,000. But just concerned too much computer.
Well, I'll tell you, the future is going to be whether we like it or not. How you know where to find the information, not so much as how much you can use the information that you have in your head right now, but how you know how to go out there and find it. Because everybody that's successful in life now knows how to go out to the internet and find out what they need to do and apply that information and learn from that information, because it's out there. It's out there to be learned. My son comes in, third year in Monmouth. He comes in, he writes programs for me out of control, and I've been doing computers all my life. Out of control, but you know what he does? He's got his computer on, 3 screens in front of him, and each screen's got 4 different things going on, and he's talking to 5 different people at the same time who are telling him how to program what he doesn't know how to know. And he learned more in 2 weeks doing that than he learned in college. So this is whether you like it or not, and I'll tell you what he did in middle school. It's a funny story. You talk about being on a computer. He was in middle school, in probably 7th grade, and he's doing his homework. And I hear him talking and talking and talking. I run up the stairs and I say, "Why aren't you doing your homework?" You know what he's saying? He's got his headset on, he's going, da-da-da-da-da, period, comma. Comma, period, this. He's doing his paper. Doing his paper because he can talk fast and he can type. And he's doing his paper electronically. And this is a kid that's been doing it, 7 years ago in middle school. So, I mean, it's there. I understand your concern about doing the games, doing the other stuff, but like John said, there's ways to monitor that.
I find it more interesting. You take a kid into a library today and go ask them, go look up a book, and they're clueless. They're absolutely clueless. Go ask the library, right? Yeah, and you know I'm right. But if you say to them, go into Wawa and order a sandwich, they can bang it out in a heartbeat on the computer. It's absolutely amazing.
No, my kids had to learn to do decimal. They're older.
For me, I control the computer time, so.
And you should,
To
sure.
shut down, just network shut down, to see, I just ask how much time do you need to stay on computer? I just estimation. I mean, right now, the way we are doing, it could be ton of time stay, mommy, I want to do the homework, achieve 3,000 e-science. I don't even know how much time they need for each subject, that's the.
Well, and that's something that each teacher would convey to you, correct? That would come on, through back to school night, that would come on the district or on the school web pages. So teachers would communicate what the expectations would be for this, so that you could, and you could always reach out to a teacher and say, hey, I have a question. My child's telling me they got 6 hours a night on the computer. Is that accurate or not?
No, I gave 15 minutes.
You could always dig in.
That's not realistic either, because my daughter would do homework for 5 hours a night. Now, I know the teacher did not assign 5 hours worth of homework. She sat there And she liked to rewrite everything, and everything was color-coded. And if it was graph, she used to cut it out and paste it in her notebook. And she used to sit there, and she used to watch TV, and she used to talk to her friends. So she liked to just, like, doodle around doing her homework. So, you know, when she was in high school, she was up to 2 o'clock in the morning. But again, because she used to like to rewrite everything, and again, it was color-coded, and it had to be perfect. And God forbid, if there was an erasure, she had to rewrite that whole page. So, you know, every kid is different.
Yeah, so to Bonnie's point, we all know our children, and like Dr. Hibbs said, if you're not communicated about how much homework your child should be doing every night, you reach out to your teacher and you ask.
And my son, it was a half hour. No matter what it was a half hour.
Okay. Curriculum.
Okay, moving on to ESL. I'll let Mrs. Alexander.
I know they were.
For ESL, I was hoping to purchase an online program called Imagine Learning. What Imagine Learning is, it supports first language. It enhances the acquisition to English. They offer videos that are done at a peer level. It models, it illustrates concepts. There's 15 languages it's available in and it does have Spanish, Russian, Mandarin, Japanese, so they do have those languages there. The students would get an online username and password. It works on a PC, an iPad, a computer, or a tablet. It gives them a pretest just to determine their language level. And with that, it will look at their reading, their speaking, their listening, and their writing. Based on the results of that, it's intuitive instruction, and it focuses on vocabulary, academic language, grammar, and listening and comprehension. We're going to pilot it this year. The representative is coming in. She's going to do training with the ESL teachers. The teachers are going to put the kids on the Chromebooks. We do have a couple of ESL students that this might not be ideal for them, and for that they're going to do an alternate assignment. But the way the ESL teachers are working is a lot of them are pushing in, so they'll just do this in the back for the students that this is not appropriate for. They'll just work with the standard text and have them do lessons with that. But it looks like a really good program, and I love Achieve. I think it's great. I've been in classrooms all year long where they're using Achieve articles for many different things. But I think what's happening is I'm watching the ESL kids that are new, and they have trouble even at the lowest Lexile level. And I think we needed a program that's kind of geared towards emerging language learners. Some of them are just so low. They need to have pictures with the text. And this program really seems to offer that kind of support that they need. Another piece of this, it is aligned to Common Core in regard to a few of the literacy concepts. It looks good, and I would like to be able to report out maybe at the end of the year once the pilot is finished how the program actually works, but I'm excited about bringing it into the ESL.
How much money were we talking about? And is this in the budget here somewhere?
It's in the budget, $8,500.
9,000.
Last year was 9,000?
8,500 is the increase.
Oh, the increase is $8,500 because last year allocation was $500 for the ESL. So I want to keep our subscription to the Brain Pop ESL, and
That's including Brain.
yes,
Not changing Brain.
Which is fantastic.
And why would some children not be at all good for this?
we have a few students that are also classified,
Okay.
and they're better served with text versus in front of a computer.
Typically, do all these online services include staff training?
For this, we are getting staff training. Yes. Sometimes, not always. Sometimes
The ones
it's
we're talking about tonight?
yes.
Just-
Is the pilot program like a free run, or until we make a commitment, or is the commitment made and then they
Prorated.
prorate? how long does the pilot program go?
It's 5 months.
Yeah, 5 or 6. Yeah, by the time it gets in here, it'll be 5 months.
So 5 months from September?
No, from February.
From now.
February, March,
We're
April.
piloting now.
Piloting this year and want it for next year.
So now through the end of the
Maybe.
year, right? Now through the end of the school year.
Yes,
Because it could be a bust.
exactly, 100%. It doesn't look like it.
Okay. Yep.
Well, he got most of my questions, so,
Okay.
but
Sorry.
it's okay. You said it's 15 languages. How many languages do we typically need for our student need?
Our biggest languages are Russian, Spanish, Mandarin, Gujarati, Tagalog, and sorry if I'm
So they're all
messing.
included in the 15? We're not missing any languages that we typically need?
No, for the most of our students. Now, occasionally, there's a student that has a designated language that is not even on any of the codes that are established by the state. So we do run into that situation from time to time, and it's like you try to differentiate. Is this the language? Are you speaking Southern or English? Sometimes we have trouble trying to figure out exactly where do they come from. I mean, we have the ESL teachers present them in text in different languages that are in that same geographic region, and sometimes they'll point to one. They'll be like, they understand that. So sometimes it's a guess, especially when they first come into district and, you have like a relative translating and, there is a language barrier. So, the teachers do the best they can with that.
So Cindy, if we had approved this, or do approve this in the future, what happens if the pilot, the flop? And
We just wouldn't buy it.
okay, it just wouldn't happen. Doesn't
Right.
matter that we had approved it.
No.
Well, then
Thank you.
come back and recommend not to use it.
Yeah. Michael, I think that was, if anything that could possibly get approved in here is a flop on a pilot, could you please come back and let us know?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Okay, and the only other item on the budget that is a significant increase would be salary curriculum writing. So, if we take a look at that just very quickly, just to provide a little context here, all of the New Jersey core curriculum contents standards, so that's everything but ELA and math, right? Because ELA and math fall under Common Core state standards. I know they sound similar, but all of those need to be updated, as I said, to the 2014. Some of them are minor modifications. Some of the larger modifications deal with the technology 8.1 and 8.2 standards that Mrs. Alexander will be supervising this summer. We have art curriculum writing that needs to take place, kindergarten health, our usual kindergarten screening, ESL screenings, kindergarten pacing guides for ELA, both ELA and math, ELA units of study 1 through 8, G&T. We continue, as I said, to upgrade or to update our G&T units, also to include some STEM lessons. Math, we're doing a lot of curriculum writing to modify the pacing guides, the assessments that that are covered in math. Science, also, we need to do some curriculum writing in the middle school to match up to our new resource, hopefully, if you approve that. Social studies in grades 1 through 8, we need to modify those pacing guides and assessments based on what we're learning this year. And finally, our ESL pacing guide. So we do have a lot of we do have a pretty significant increase from last year. Speaking from where we were last year to where we are now, we are doing a lot of backtracking in terms of having teachers really get involved throughout the school year now to make modifications and changes, and really these are in responses to what we're seeing that's happening in the classrooms, that's happening on the common assessments. So it's a constant utilization of our staff throughout the school year, and they're doing a great job in doing so, really in all disciplines. But I know Carol and Michael have been utilizing staff district-wide now for the last few months, and will continue to do so to get us through this year. But that's really a result of us shaving down our curriculum budget from last year. And I looked at this long and hard with all of the supervisors to try to really to cut off any unnecessary hours or tasks, and we're at bare bones here. We need this time.
Question? Sure.
Being that now you're talking about more subjects for this year that you have to go through, did you put a maximum on how many teachers are able, I guess, to volunteer to
Yes.
right?
Yes. We have. I have it broken out. Do you have the actual specific budget sheet? You don't. We do. We have the hourly rate is $47.37 for teachers. That's their contracted hourly rate, and we do have a number of hours times number of teachers, and then of course times that $47.37. That's what gets us at our number. So yes, we do have in some cases 4 teachers, 2 teachers, depending on what it is. I could certainly break that out if you'd like on a specific level.
I was just wondering if you had.
Anybody else? Okay.
Thank
Good? We only had the one question to get back on that Debbie had asked originally. right?
Teachscape.
Teachscape versus
Sure.
Genesis. I'm keeping track of them, so don't come home Friday in the green notes.
Second?
Just a little bit more information on the collections also, Mr. Bowman. Thank you.
Okay,
What are
thank
you
you.
looking for?
Thanks, Kim, Michael, Carol,
For
Michael,
Lexile,
and
thank
Lori.
Good job.
Thank you very much.
Okay, before we do the final public session, Bonnie would ask me on the old business to find out what's happening with the web search and the online contracts. I asked
Yep.
Dr. Hibbs to report.
I know exactly.
Well, I think you asked the question, the whole board should get the answer anyway.
Web search, Mr. Vaughn's working with Strauss to put that one up. That should be done relatively soon. The PO was cut to Strauss for the district online access, right?
A while ago.
Okay. And then the other question was contracts.
I do have a question about that, though.
Okay.
When I was speaking to Mr. Warren, Craig Warren,
Yep.
and when I was in the policy meeting with him, he told me that there's going to be 15 access points, 15, go ahead, Bonnie, 15
Logins.
user logins
Mhm.
to the website for user
For Strauss login. I'm with you.
Strauss
Yeah, login. I got you.
logins. There's just 2 different logins. There's going to be, everybody's going to be able to log in to do the search
Yes.
engine. And then there's going to be 15 user logins.
Yes.
And that user login is going to be a souped-up search engine, which is going to be
Code,
for,
Reg, 6A, 18A.
Right. So
Yep.
that you'll be able to get like case law and
Yep.
everything else.
Case studies, yeah.
Okay, so I know I've been asking for forever to be able to get into the Strauss Esme
Yeah.
login.
It's because it hasn't been set. So when we purchased Strauss, we only purchased the version. Okay?
Right.
We never purchased the other version. In order for you to get any form of a login, this is the process that we have to do.
All right, so I'll be able to get into Strauss Esme after we get this?
We'll have 15 users, so we have to figure out, yes, so I mean, you're on policy. Well, will the board have it? The board can certainly have it. We would need to up our users, on who had it.
And how are we going to?
If you only do 15,
Well, I mean,
Well,
God.
Well, the only reason was because, the reason I had asked to get into it is because I do policy.
Absolutely.
And that
Find us.
this way I would be able to be at home, be able to get
Yep.
into
I
the
think that's-
updates and everything else.
Absolutely.
And that was the need for me to get into policy.
If a user access is per user per time, perhaps there could be one user access general set up for the rest of the board that, we're all not going to log on at the same time. So
No.
as long as it's only, we log on different times,
Yep.
don't butt heads, we
I don't
should be able to
even-
get
I don't
on
even know
without
that they
buying a
would
million
even-
one.
I don't even know if they would boot you out if you did it more than once.
Right.
Let me, so what I think makes sense is, Bonnie, I think that's a very reasonable request because you do a ton of work for policy. Why don't you let me show you the difference between what it's going to be? It's not quite that. There's no login for the general search engine. You just go right in and you can
Just go
search.
in and
Yep.
search whatever you need.
Yep. So the other one essentially is you would enter your email address and your password or whatever it may be, and then you'll go in and you can have all the inside stuff that Strauss would give you. So you'd have a quick look at 18A, 6A, you'd have case studies, you'd have case law, you'd have all those
And
things.
I could see where Bonnie needs it all the time, but
Yep.
I could see where, if we had a question about
Happy-
a second read, you might
happy
want to
to
go
do
in there
that.
and look at that.
Happy to do that. And Craig and I even have discussed this. It's not as if every principal will need this because, for instance, Mr. Pacifico could certainly share this with Mrs. Labuza and Mrs. Tardia.
Right.
So yes, absolutely. That's what will give you this login. Because before we had some generic login, which
was crazy. I wasn't going to take some secretary's
yes,
email address and her password because that was not right for me to take.
Yep,
And I
absolutely.
wouldn't take it.
As soon as we have this, what I will do is I will figure out the best way for the board. I'll figure out if multiple users can be on, and then we'll make sure that you have access and everybody has access. And then I'll even show you up here. With contracts, are we
What about contracts?
contracts we were supposed to put up online? I don't know where we were with that. Do you have any idea where we are with contracts? That was a question that came up. My contract.
That's a good question. I mean, I have them all. I can get them up. I can get somebody to
Yeah,
put
we
them
did
up.
say we were going to put them all
Yeah.
online.
I thought there was one there. I don't think the rest of them got up yet.
Right, that's what was the question that
Okay.
was raised.
We'll
Thanks,
put 'em
Sam.
up.
All right, thank you. All right, bring us to our final public session. Anyone from the public wish to address the board on any item? Please come forward. Just need your name and address on the clipboard as well as the microphone.
Can I clarify one thing? We're only
Sure.
putting up the settled contracts, not the old ones. Because we have some bargaining units that are not settled.
So put them all up and then we'll just change them.
You want them all up?
Well, whatever's in effect, it's still in effect, even though it's not settled. It's the old.
It's not even, I mean,
I think
Yeah,
if,
but
if,
they-
if, if there's an existing contract, I think it should go up, and then
Yeah.
as they
Okay,
go,
put
we'll
them
just
all
flip
up.
them down.
That's right, we changed them. Sure.
ready?
Yeah.
Hi, Sarah Chrysler, 1103 Roseberry Court. I think you'll be happy to know I'm not here to beat you guys over the head about Park specifically tonight.
Thank you, Sarah.
But I am actually here to echo some of Bonnie Sue Rosenwald's comments. I'm beyond frustrated with, full-day kindergarten and the lack thereof it. I heard you tonight, Dr. Hibbs, speaking about Facebook and posting feel-good stories. And while that's all nice, I feel like our Marlboro kindergartners are the sob stories of Marlboro. I think for my child to compete with our neighbors and friends who shop at the same supermarket that we all go to, we're all kind of in the same area, you're going to force parents in Marlboro to pay $6,000 or more, that's kind of the low end, for private education, for a full-day education in kindergarten. And I kind of want to know why. I'm asking your exact plans for kindergarten, specifically a timeline. We got an email maybe a week or two ago, saying it's definitely half day for 2015-16, but it was kind of very unspecific and left out there to say this is just for 2015-16 and no kind of further information about what's going to happen past there. And I understand maybe you don't know, but I'm curious as to what it might be.
Clarify it when you're done.
And really, just because I want my Marlboro child to be prepared for first grade. If I don't put my child in a full-day kindergarten program, what are they going to be doing in first grade, especially now, because it is so rigorous. There is so much testing. I can't say for sure in a 2.5-hour day when my child has been in preschool for a full-day program. I think you'd be hard-pressed to find a preschool child that wasn't in a full-day program, than to put them in a half-day program. I don't get it. So.
Okay, thank you. We'll respond at the end of the public session. Anyone else in the public wish to address the board on any item? All right, seeing none.
Okay, so where are we specifically? So the board is engaged. It's been a while since we started this discussion, but they are at a spot where they have heard proposals from 2 separate modular companies, and they also have a proposal on a full construction project. So everybody on this dais, and I can even speak for them, has really spoken out in favor of full day K. every one of them. Everybody here, including myself, believes that this is what Marlboro needs. It's taken some time to get to the place where we are right now, but we're going to continue. So this board is going to engage in talks about when and if the next step would be. You know, we've discussed a referendum and what that may or may not look like. The hard facts are simply that Abbott was built for half day. There's nothing we can do about that right now. You know, I think we would all, you know, do our magic genie wink and change it to full day if we could, but we certainly can't. So what would it look like for 16, 17? I don't have the answer for you. I don't. I wish I could. I can only tell you what we all would want, and we've all voiced the fact that we do believe in full day K. Now, our half-day program does reach all the necessary Common Core standards. However, a full day is always preferable to half-day. No one here is going to argue that point with you, nor the fact that you'd have to pay, you know, if you wanted to go into KCP or into private. But, you know, the board will have to decide together how to proceed, and they have a few options that they needed to navigate, and that's what we've done.
We're very close now to coming to a point where, listen, all things being equal, it looks like it's going to cost $20 million as we hear different in a referendum. The board, whether it's modular or not, the modular only, the difference in the modular right now looks like being quicker to build, but then the modular is not the same as central building. So we're going to have some conversations. It's going to happen rather quickly at this point. You were supposed to tell us how much. You told us.
In the green notes.
It's in the green notes, $1,600. We can make that decision tonight if we want. Certainly do that. If we want to have them write the number up, write the plans up for a modular guy to give us a price by our architect's plans, which is $1,600. That would.
Yeah, he could do it in about 2 weeks.
That would be, as
Would
Dr.
simple
Hibbs says,
to-
following it through to the end, then make a decision based on all the facts that we have. If we went out in September referendum, which is what we're looking at now, and it passed, we'd have to rely on we wouldn't know to the speed of our construction. So if it was modular, it could be half the time as a regular building would for kindergarten, maybe at a different starting period than regular building. As you saw what happened in our other buildings, with just the little fronts we were putting on, we thought we'd be here. It took us much longer to do the construction on all our other smaller buildings. So that's the best answer I can give you. Stay tuned, because I've got to ask the board anyway right now. Do we want to go ahead with the $1,600 and follow it through to the end and get a price for modular building so we know it's the price? I'll open that discussion. We know it was in the green notes. If we don't, then we've got one thing left, you know, $20 million for...
If you want me to opine, I'll opine. I think at this point, the modular, unless somebody's going to look me in the eye and tell me that the number's going to come down from 285 or 300, after our guy, we spent $1,600 for the guy, you know, for our guy to come back and say this is exactly how it's going to be, and then we got to wait more, and it's not going to be all that much different from general construction. I'm telling you, I'd rather just go general construction and end it and call it a day. Thank you very much. Let's go out for referendum and see what happens. Okay. I was really hoping that it was going to be half the cost, half the time, and then I could look the taxpayers straight in the eye and say, listen, I understand your point of you know, people not moving into the neighborhood because there's no kindergarten, but in the same breath, people aren't going to move in because the taxes are going to be just you know, it's a catch-22. Right, but it is a catch-22 because there's people out there that can't, you know, the taxes are killing us. So we're trying to do the right thing for everybody, and I think at this point, if it's not half the cost and it's not quite half the time, let's just go out for referendum. That's my opinion. Okay.
And Cindy, I had asked you a question about getting the same amount of money. We were going to get about $5 million back on the $20 million from the state on regular construction. Approximately, did you find out what we would?
It would be approximately the same. So you're talking about the same numbers.
Approximately the same, less.
All I know is what I've been able to gather is they treat it the same.
Okay,
that's what I've been told.
Because I was questioning and I was told it was less. So.
But you're not going to know what your numbers are until Ted does the plans and gets them to the Department of Education.
How long would that take, though?
Ted said, what, 2 weeks?
2 weeks for the $1,600.
Okay.
Well, those aren't plans.
No, all those is cost estimates based on what he's been doing. You know, based on what he gave
before.
Let her finish.
But let's time out here is that you're going to come to a point within the next month or so that he's got to start moving on something, because remember, you've got to back up 90 days from September to
Right.
get this to the state.
And have
So
time to
because-
sell it.
Well, exactly. And you need to know how much the state, because when he does the plans and gives it to the state, they have 90 days to review it. That could take longer because they could want changes, they could want this. They're also going to tell you at that point in time how much money they're going to give you towards the project. So you're going to go out and sell. Let's say you might be going for a $15 million referendum with $5 million coming in from the state's contribution. But you need to know all this to go out in the street and sell all of this. So you've got to start rolling this. Also, the sooner Ted can start this process, the sooner he can get to a point of construction documents, et cetera. And with the referendum being in September, it's successful, then that's quicker. He can get this on the street, get a bid, and on through the process.
Correct.
Well,
Well, okay.
oh, I'm sorry, I forgot.
Just cost us.
I apologize.
Are we locked into
Yeah.
this particular architect?
Well, we could start a process of getting any architect, but that's going to probably bring us past the limit
start
of
over.
the, have to start over.
No,
We would lose to September.
The only reason why I'm asking is because when I heard him speak, he seemed very biased towards the regular construction. I don't know if that's going to influence what he gives us back. I'm just
He's
throwing
going
it
to
out.
be
I just don't
basing
know.
on the costs that are provided to them.
I'm sorry?
To him. He'd have the conversation that he would have, that you heard last week with the modular company. So it wouldn't be based on, biased as far, he believes, and you're right, he believes that conventional construction is the better way to go,
Yeah. Right.
long-term. But bias, I don't know him to be biased. If anything, he's
No,
more.
I think
Well,
he's a stand-up guy.
We're not tied to any of our professionals. As a board, we can always decide we want a new professional.
No, I didn't know if we had a contractual arrangement with him where we're locked. That's what I was
No.
asking.
All
No,
the contracts have by a certain 60 days, whatever they are. I don't
Well,
know if he has
you
anything.
don't have it. It's project by project.
Yeah.
Okay.
But if you were, honestly,
I think for this particular project,
You're
I
too
think
late
it's
in the
something
game.
I wouldn't mind looking at, but for this particular project,
Too late in the game.
I think it's too
Yeah.
late in the game for that.
It might be, I just didn't know what the arrangement
Yeah.
was, that's all.
Yeah.
No, I don't have a problem with looking at other options, but not for this particular.
I'm with you. Anybody else? Go ahead.
I think for this project, I think that I'm not willing to spend $1,600 at this point of more of taxpayers' money into this, and I didn't hear anything last week that would make me want to change my mind. That modular came in higher than the conventional construction, so I would just go with the conventional construction at this point. And those were just estimates that he gave us also, and,
Yeah, they were based on nothing that he knew that we were actually doing, but the square footage on his thing, like to your point, John, was right up there.
I was terribly disappointed, I really was.
I was the high end.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
high end.
But we're gonna,
No, they were 280 to
Probably.
305,
Yeah.
and he gave us 275 a square foot, so they were higher.
Listen, if the guy had walked in the door and he said, it was going to be 150 or 170, and I would have said, guys, we have to spend the money. We have to spend the money.
I don't see,
But
we have.
I just don't see it at this point.
he's
He
very-
didn't wow. I mean,
And everything he said was, well, we'll modify it to your needs. And all I kept seeing was more dollar signs were going to get added to it.
and here's the other issue. You go out for a referendum. We got to go out. This is going to be, you're going to have to sell it to the public, and you're going to sell it, and you say a modular. People are going to immediately, even though I think modular is a great build, I really do. I don't have a problem with modular, but it's going to be, it's a tougher sell. It's definitely a tougher sell when you say we're going to do modular.
He said the same thing.
Who?
He did too.
The 1,600 pays for what exactly, Cindy?
just cost estimates of what it would be modular-wise versus conventional.
it's his cost estimates, and then you'd have to either take those
Which we already received.
really from the other two
From the
people.
other two people.
So really, what we know is pretty much by what we heard already, it looks like it costs about the same. It could be done in half the time, but we're not really sure because we haven't done it before is what the end product and the longevity. And you got to make that choice. I'll speak later, but make that choice of is it worth talking about it anymore, just go the other way, and let you guys finish talking.
I don't think we need to spend the 1,600 because we already have our numbers generally.
Yeah, right.
With all the money we're going to save, we'll have the modular people come in and give Dr. Hibbs' office, and we'll hang it off the back wall.
So, I guess the question to your point, Debbie, and John's point, and Devonia's point, and Craig's point, do we just want to tell Cindy, let's go, and start the 20 million, or 20 or 15, if we get 5 back, it'll be a $15 million referendum, correct?
Do we have a price for Ted to give us actual plans?
I don't have them here, but I got them back there, so.
That's what you should have, and then you should
Yeah,
go.
ready to go?
Are we good?
Okay.
I
didn't see heads nodding, Michael.
I didn't see everybody say yes.
No, I think that we've done our due diligence
So
to
you're
see
okay?
if they're, yeah, I'm definitely okay.
Okay, Joanne, you saying okay? I want to look at everybody, okay.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have, we made all the comparison, that we don't have other choice.
So, we did our due diligence, I can look the people in the town in the eye and say we did the best that we could to try to save them money, and that's it, we're done.
We've beaten this horse to death twice.
Correct, sir.
So,
Well, it would have been a hero if it was a huge
Absolutely.
savings.
Victoria, you are absolutely
No, it
right.
was- To me, it was worth
Abs-
seeing.
Definitely right.
Absolutely.
And it would have been time savings.
Absolutely.
So to me,
It wouldn't
was
have been
worth
done
it.
for September
I was just
anyway.
disappointed.
Nobody
Everybody was disappointed.
Nobody in the town could look any one of us in the eye and say, you jumped on it, you did it too quick, you didn't look at all your options, we looked at every single way to do it the
Well, we're
best
going to
way
say
we
it
could.
anyway.
So,
Well, we're taking too long.
so Cindy, next step, it's in your hands.
Yeah, well, I'll have a number and I'll have it on the agenda hopefully next week
Okay?
for approval. What?
Regular meeting.
So we have another meeting next week, 3 weeks in a row?
You're going to be meeting here
It's
for the
funny.
next
So,
5
I
That's
know,
funny.
I know.
That's what my
50th.
son said today as I was walking out the door at 4:30.
Someone told me
Lied
another
to you.
meeting today?
Once a month.
Lies.
We need a song, budget time,
Lies. All
It's
lies.
sucked into the
Okay.
vortex here.
budget time song. We need
I live here.
Get
I
the fifth graders
propose that we go to Mrs. Bono and ask her to create a song for us.
Yeah, budget time, we need a song.
I have to read the executive session, if we're all good, I'm reading the executive session resolution. Be it resolved that in accordance with provision of the Open Public Meetings Act, the Marlborough Township Board of Education shall conduct a closed executive session pursuant to personnel legal exceptions prescribed by NJSA 10:4-12 for the purpose of discussing personnel matters and the sale of the Morganville School. Anticipated length of time executive session will be 15 minutes, and action will not be taken in public at the executive session. Be so resolved that minutes of executive session will be released for the need for confidentiality according to NJSA 10:4-12 no longer applies. Seconded by Debbie. All those in favor? Aye. Anybody against? I'll make a motion to adjourn to executive session, seconded by somebody? Craig. All those in favor?
Aye.
I say it. No, hello?
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody against? No, okay. We adjourn to executive session. Thank you for coming out tonight.